630-918-9534. That's 630-918-9534.
With over 50 years of precision tooling, that's a lot of job shop work and custom parts. And it's why Bruscher Machining is the go-to CNC turning and machining company in Chicagoland. If you have a custom project, whether it's a single prototype or a short-run production of a few thousand pieces, give them a call today for your free custom quote. 630-876-1661. That's 630-876-1661. Or visit BruscherMachining.com. That's BRUCHER Machining.com. They also provide heat treating, balancing, plating, and surface coating, welding and fabrication, plus project management. Bruscher Machining guarantees to consistently deliver high-quality parts and solutions on time for reasonable prices. Yeah, everyone says that, but the proof is in the tooling. Stop by to meet their team of seasoned pros and tour the facility located in West Chicago. To learn more about how CNC machining can turn your tough project into an operational reality, contact Bruscher Machining today for your free custom quote. 630-876-1661.
Now, your official weather forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect mostly sunny skies with a breeze reaching a high of 42. Tonight will bring increasing cloudiness with a low of 33. Tomorrow, anticipate mostly cloudy conditions with a brief shower around midday and breezy weather in the afternoon, reaching a high of 48. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Goldilocks, offering smart security systems to homes and businesses. Call Goldilocks at 708-889-5600.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Hope everyone had a good weekend. Probably a lot better if you stayed out of a major urban center and just enjoyed watching the Hoosiers and the Bears from afar. Of course, the fallout from the ICE-involved shooting that we discussed last week, and I'm sure Amy J. and Jeannie Ives picked it up when I was gone on Friday. As expected, it persisted well into the weekend because the D.C. press corps and the neo-Marxists they serve were in full agitprop mode. A good example of foreshadowing for the weekend conversation was the little press avail that J.D. Vance held on Friday, in which he properly scolded the press corps for the way they were characterizing what transpired with respect to that ICE-involved shooting of that woman, Miss Good, who did bad on that day. And here was that exchange, and it's important to hear the predicate of the question, which was not lost on J.D. Vance, as you would expect.
How does being part of that network justify being shot?
Well, being part of the network doesn't justify being shot, but ramming an ICE officer with your car, that's what justifies being shot. It's not a good thing, by the way, but when you force somebody to engage in self-defense, it's almost a preposterous question. I'm not saying that funding some of this stuff justifies capital punishment. Nobody would suggest that. The reason this woman is dead is because she tried to ram somebody with her car, and that guy acted in self-defense. That is why she lost her life, and that is the tragedy. Now, there may be other violations of the law and other penalties that are associated with those violations of the law. For example, if you are funding violence against our law enforcement officers, I'm not a prosecutor. My guess is that's not the sort of thing that earns capital punishment, but it should sure as hell earn you a few years in prison if you're funding the effort to try to assault our law enforcement officers. What is, I'm sorry, guys, what's going on here? You guys are meant to report the truth. How have you let yourself become agents of propaganda of a radical fringe that's making it harder for us to enforce our laws? You just asked me a question that presumed that the reason why this woman died is because she was engaged in legitimate protest. She tried to run somebody over with her car, and the guy defended himself when that happened. Next question.
The investigation is still ongoing.
I said next question.
And the point here is she's part of this network that she deserved to be shot, part of this, protest network. No, of course not. And how would the ICE officer and ICE officers in question on that day, how would they have any profile on her? They didn't have any, there's no indication they had any idea who she was. I mean, they could have run her plate, but that doesn't give you the full dossier. So just the dishonesty. I know this is a feature, not a bug for the DC press corps, and this is what they do, and this is who they serve, but it's just another illustration of it. And so you have to pick it up the way that Vance did and say, let's examine the premise of what you said and flip it back on them. So you think the ICE officer, the agent's name, which has been released, his last name is Ross, you think he went out that day, he had Renee Good on his hit list, and he was looking for an opportunity. And so when she impeded ICE vehicles from getting out about their business, that's when he decided to run around the passenger side of his car, stand in front of it, point his gun at her. She looking at him. We have video of that now. She looking at him. She knows she's looking at an officer with a gun trained on her. And her instinct is to push the gas pedal down. This was all orchestrated by Agent Ross and his co-conspirators in ICE. Is that what you're saying? Because I just want to understand what you're saying. It's easy to engage in the generic demagoguery of AOC or Brotherly Love Spice, Ilhan Omar. Call it an assassination and call it murder and so on and so forth. Explain to me how this occurred, what you think happened, what you think ICE did. We're not supposed to impute any motive onto Miss Good, but it's free reign to impute all sorts of motives on Agent Ross and everyone else wearing an ICE uniform. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro, answer line. And just in case you missed it, I'm sure most of our listeners hadn't. There was this video that was leaked. I'm sure it was leaked by DHS, which is fine, to Alpha News. You want the video, right? I'm also just astounded to watch, the, again, customary hypocrisy. We want video. We want body cam. We want everything to be memorialized so that people can see it. We want full transparency. We want it immediately. So DHS or ICE leaks this video, I'm guessing, because it was shot by one of the ICE officers, it would appear. Leaks this video to Alpha News. Alpha News publishes, and it's like, oh, this was leaked video. So, do you want to see it or not? I thought you're trying to get to the truth. Aren't you the all cops need to wear body cam, folks? You're always screaming bloody murder when an ICE agent, when ICE agents don't, because ICE agents don't have body cam footage on, or when a cop turns his body cam off, and now you're upset that you got more video? Anyway, this was that video. That's good.
That's okay. We don't change our plates every morning.
That's her wife.
So you know, it'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
And then Jake Tapper was very upset that maybe it was Ross, maybe it was some other agent referred to her as an effing B. He queried Kristi Noem about that over the weekend because that's really important. I don't know, when somebody tries to run you over, somebody resists arrest and compels an officer to shoot in self-defense, something I don't think he was looking to do on that day. You can understand where an officer might be a little exercised by someone acting so stupidly and recklessly and violently. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. This was Tom Homan on Meet the Press with the simple admonition, this public service announcement brought to you by Tom Homan for the learning impaired.
There was no reason for this lady to do what she did. There's no reason to be there. If you want to protest, protest, but don't actively impede and interfere, and certainly don't drive a 4,000-pound vehicle toward an officer.
Homan also reiterated something, again, he has been saying for literally years. I mean, he's been involved in this issue going back to the mid-'80s, but literally as he's become a higher profile person, as we've all witnessed during the Trump era. So he's been saying this for a decade about sanctuary city and state jurisdictions like Chicago and Cook County and Illinois, like formerly Minneapolis and Minnesota and Portland and Seattle and New York.
If they didn't have the sanctuary policies they had.
But do you have evidence that she's a domestic
let me
terrorist?
finish this, because this is important. Less officers in the community if we were in the jail. Bottom line, we are forced into the community because the governor of that state and the mayor support sanctuary cities, where child rapists are released back in the community that create a huge public safety threat. So if you want less officers in the street, then let us into jail.
And I'm sorry, who is gunning for chaos and confrontation and violence here? Who is gunning for it? Because you see what they've been doing over the last several days is they're trying to flip the script that it's Trump who wants confrontation. And at every turn on this issue for a decade, you have heard Trump's top people on this, like Tom Homan, say, it would be much more efficient. It'd be much safer. You'd have a smaller ICE footprint if you would just let us in the jails, if you would just work with us on detainers, and we do things in the jail, it's better and safer for all parties concerned. But you don't want that, because what would all these professional protesters in these networks that were referred to, what would they do with their days without this? Oh, by the way, just lost in all of this, of course, is what ICE is actually doing in Minnesota, the 2,000-strong agent surge in what was formerly known as Minnesota. And, oh, by the way, if you thought this was going to lead to some sort of retreat, the news from DHS is more agents are on the way. But the work they're actually doing, remember that? The point of all this? Bill Melugin over at Fox reporting over the weekend that ICE provided him and Fox News a list of some of the most egregious criminal aliens they have arrested during the surge in the sanctuary state that is Minnesota. Melugin describes it as the most disturbing list I've ever seen, including numerous convicted child rapists and sodomizers, 10 convicted killers, most with deportation orders going back many years, several from Laos, Somalia, and Sudan. And he posted the list. And by the way, if the enterprising person who actually would want to be informed and inform others, I mean, there are press releases that are easily accessible on the Homeland Security DHS site that have profiles on these people, names, ranks, and serial numbers, if you will. A Laotian illegal convicted of strong-arm sodomy of a boy and strong-arm sodomy of a girl with a deportation order since 2018. This is what these terrorists, these Nazis, these murderers and thugs, the left's characterization, are doing. And are happy to do without any confrontation with the public, are happy to do amid protests, no matter how ignorant and profane and offensive the language. You go ahead and you have your say. Just don't get in our way. Is that too much to ask? A number of Laotian illegals. This is a whole another potential area of mass importation. Sans any sort of vetting, scrutiny, assessment of self-sufficiency, assessment of desire for assimilation. A Sudanese illegal convicted of murder. A Mexican illegal convicted of homicide, previously deported in 2002. The Laotian illegal convicted of 2 counts of murder with a deportation order since 2009. A illegal from Sierra Leone convicted of 2 counts of homicide with a deportation order since 2022. A Somali illegal convicted of manslaughter with a deportation order since 2022. A Guatemalan illegal convicted of negligent homicide with a vehicle and DUI with a deportation order since 2022. A Burmese illegal convicted of negligent homicide. The huddled masses yearning to breathe free, are they? ICE is mainly interested in terrorizing people of color, randomly stopping and inconveniencing, at best, American citizens. That's where their focus is. Doesn't seem to be. But, of course, this discussion did not happen over the weekend on the Sunday talk shows. And frankly, I wouldn't expect any of those mouthpieces for the neo-Marxists to bring any of this up. But it would have been nice if, rather than getting into the back and forth about what he said and she said about what happened with this ICE-involved shooting, it would have been nice. It should have been done. Especially Kristi Noem gave Jake Tapper 20 minutes to insinuate this specifically into the conversation. It needs broader distribution. We'll continue this discussion, take your calls, also fold in a similar incident that thankfully didn't lead to any death in Portland. That's at 5:38. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 29 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. A Chicago man is in custody for the shooting death of a dentist and his wife in Ohio. According to reports, Michael McKee has been charged in the death of his ex-wife Monique Tippie and her husband Spencer Tippie. The pair were found shot to death in their home on December 30th. McKee is scheduled to appear in an Ohio courtroom today. A Mexican national has been charged with illegally possessing and firing a loaded handgun in Chicago near immigration enforcement actions last year. Prosecutors say Gomez had previously been convicted of a felony and was removed from the U.S. on at least 4 different occasions between 2008 and 2015. And Bears fans are still celebrating after Saturday night's incredible come-from-behind victory against the Packers. After trailing the first 3 quarters, the Bears found their stride, knocking off the cobwebs and scoring 25 points in the 4th quarter, securing their place in next week's division playoffs. This report is a service of Mattress Firm. The once-a-year sale and clearance is here. Upgrade today with Mattress Firm's quality selection of top brands. Let their sleep experts find the perfect bed to help transform your nights. They make sleep easy. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next.
Alex Marlow explains his mission.
We're not going to play games here. We're not just going to court clicks. We're not just going to court shares. I'm going to give you the news. The news is what you're going to get in the show, and a deep analysis from great guests. What I'm trying to do here is try to save the country as best I can for my 4 children. I'm doing this for them. I'm doing this because I believe in America.
The Alex Marlow Show. Weekdays at 11, right before Scott Jennings at noon on AM 560. The Answer.
What if 2026 could be the best year ever for your retirement? It can when you take control of your financial future with physical precious metals. Call Advantage Gold at 800-741-GOLD right now and get your free gold rollover kit valued at $49, yours just for calling. More Americans than ever are discovering the power of rolling over a portion of their IRA or 401k into physical gold and silver. With a simple, tax and penalty-free rollover, you can add stability, security, and strength to your retirement. In times of inflation, uncertainty, or market swings, gold has been a steady, tangible, proven store of value. And in 2026, it could be the key to building the retirement you've always imagined. That's why so many people trust Advantage Gold, the #1 rated gold IRA company in America for 10 years running. Call 800-741-GOLD to get your free gold rollover kit. Call 800-741-GOLD and let 2026 be the year you finally take control. Consult your financial advisor before investing. Call 800-741-GOLD.
Perhaps you're a collector, or perhaps all of a sudden you have a collection. Maybe it's an inheritance. How do you know what it's worth? This is Sean Thompson for Donley Auction. The market for antiques and collectibles is changing all the time. What is your collection worth right now? Well, I've got an easy way to find out. It's simple. You contact Donley Auctions with their worldwide audience of live and in-person auctions. They have a good idea of how to tell you exactly what it's worth at exactly right now. They're ready to put top dollar in your pocket. The bigger the collection, the better. Go to DonleyAuctions.com and get the info on all things that they buy and sell to have an idea of exactly what Donley does and how much they need your collection. They have so many buyers, it's a great time to sell. Just simply make a phone call. Donley has traveled all over the country to pick up collections. Just call and talk to the people at Donley Auctions at 815-923-7000. Donley Auctions is your trusted partner in turning your collections into cash. DonleyAuctions.com.
Hair Volume from New Nordic will make your hair look thick and healthy. Hair Volume is available online at Amazon and NewNordicUSA.com or in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
Now, your official weather forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect mostly sunny skies with a brisk breeze. The temperature will reach a high of 42. Tonight, clouds will start to increase, leading to a low of 33. Tomorrow will bring mostly cloudy conditions with a passing shower around midday and breezy conditions in the afternoon. Look for a high of 48. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. In addition to continuing to argue over what the videos indicate in terms of whether or not this was a murder, an assassination, these are the words of people like AOC and Ilhan Omar. Or it was a police officer, a law enforcement officer, defending himself under reasonable fear for serious bodily harm or death, makes a split decision in front of a car that decides, the driver of which decides to proceed in his direction. Right? A lot of the fact that this was failure to comply with multiple lawful orders given from multiple law enforcement agencies. She sees, as I mentioned before the break, she sees him in front of her. We have a still shot from one of the videos. She is looking straight ahead. Officer Ross is there. His gun is drawn, and her instinct is to press down the gas pedal. In addition to all that, something else that they've now folded in, talking about the left and their mouthpieces on the Sunday talkies, is the nature of the investigation and who gets to do it. They're aghast, I tell you, that the federal government is going to do the investigation. The Department of Justice is going to do the investigation, not the Hennepin County State's Attorney's Office. And the argument that's being made is right now, the Department of Justice isn't interested in folding in the Hennepin County State's Attorney's Office. We need the states and the locals. Really? Why would A.G. Bondi and Kash Patel be reticent to fold in Mary Moriarty, who is the state's attorney for the Hennepin County? Why would they be? I mean, in addition to the general antagonism and the histrionics and the name calling and the lack of interest in cooperating with federal law enforcement operations in the state and the county, In addition to all that, why would they perhaps say, we can do this on our own? We don't need Mary Moriarty and her office. Golly, why? Well, as per usual, we have some institutional memory here. And so Hennepin County attorney Mary Moriarty, the prosecutor, the local prosecutor, had this to say, among other things, on a podcast just back in 2024.
There is a concerted effort to make people afraid of crime. And I have heard over and over and over various forms of super predator, which I had hoped we left behind in the 90s, but we haven't. I hear it all the time when we're talking about young people, young Black youth, frankly, who are at risk and involved in, behaviors that we would wish they weren't, but we kind of understand why they are. So there's a lot of fear in politics. There are a lot of people in power who want to remain in power that are afraid of losing those positions of power by not supporting police or criticizing police.
This was, again, in response to basically the Trump administration talking about the murder and mayhem that was besetting major urban centers as the predicate to have federal law enforcement deployed to assist cities like Memphis or D.C. or Chicago, New Orleans, both domestic law enforcement as well as obviously layering in the additional violent crime associated with the lawlessness at our borders over the last 4 years. And that was her reaction to it. She continued playing identity politics because that's what she is. She's an identitarian political hack.
And look at January 6th. I mean, how many of the people that were there were involved in law enforcement? So this isn't because white supremacy.
We don't know. Chris Wray won't tell us.
Live in. It's the water. It's what we swim in here. And so it's a very difficult question. If we've lived under white supremacy for the entire existence of our country, how...
Yeah, I think you're picking up what she's laying down. And then there's this, and this is almost on point with respect to this ICE-involved shooting by this woman who was engaged in some sort of half-assed vigilantism, or so she thought. Minneapolis Police Department criticizes District Attorney Mary Moriarty for declining to charge a Minnesota government employee who caused $20,000 in damages to Teslas. Police provided evidence 33-year-old Dylan Brian Adams committed multiple felonies. However, Moriarty declined to charge him. And this is Police Chief Brian O'Hara. This is how far left Moriarty is. O'Hara, who's regularly apologizing for being a white dude to the Somali community there in what was formerly Minneapolis, and comparing illegal immigrants to Jesus and Mary making their way to Bethlehem. That's Brian O'Hara. And this is what he said about Moriarty. The Minneapolis Police Department did its job. It identified and investigated a crime trend, identified and arrested a suspect, and presented a case to file in Hennepin County to the Hennepin County State's Attorney's Office for consideration of charges. The case impacted at least six different victims, totaled more than $20,000 in damages. Any frustration related to the charging decision of the Hennepin County attorney should be directed solely at her office. Our investigators are always frustrated when the cases they poured their hearts into are declined. In my experience, the victims in these cases often feel the same. Wow. Brian O'Hara's nuts dropped on this, and then they crawled back up. This is, of course, the period of vigilantism when vandalizing random people's Teslas was a perfectly fine form of protest, according to people like Mary Moriarty, because Elon Musk was involved in Doge, and that means being involved with white supremacy, and that means being involved with fascism, and that means our democracy was at stake. And so if you want to scratch up a few Teslas, then that's perfectly okay by the good district attorney from Hennepin County. So just keep a little bit of that in your background that you won't get from the Sunday talkies or pretty much anywhere else when the hand-wringing about Mary Moriarty not being folded into the loop by Bondi and Patel, when that argument is offered up, as it was again and again by Kristen Welker on Meet the Press in discussions with Tom Homan, by Jake Tapper in discussions with Kristi Noem. Here's Homan.
I cannot overstate the importance of a local investigation, or at least access to the federal investigation by the BCA. Without it, we will not have the ability to be transparent with our community about the results of the expectation, or, as I said, any decision that might come of the review.
So there's, law and order all the way, Mary Moriarty complaining about being frozen out, and here's Homan's response.
Mr. Homan, I've been talking to law enforcement experts who say they have never heard of state and local officials being cut out of a federal investigation. How can the public trust the results of this investigation if it doesn't include state and local officials, the people who are there on the ground?
Well, first of all, this is a federal crime.
But it happened in Minneapolis.
It's a federal crime, and the jurisdiction clearly falls within the FBI. I've been doing this since 1984. When a federal officer is involved with the shooting, it's up to the investigation goes to the FBI. It's been that way forever. And where were all these people? It shocks me. They have this opinions now. When they stood aside and let child rapists be released from jails back in the community.
But it's one thing to have the FBI be
They're complicit why we're in the position we are today. They're complicit from their silence of an open border for 4 years, where millions of people are released in this country, many of them public safety threats and national security threats. They were silent. They were silent when 500,000 children were trafficked in this country, and they lost track of 300,000 of them.
Yeah. By the way, for all of the armchair prosecutors in public office, mainly on the left, even those who are ostensibly officers of the court, they're lawyers, they're former prosecutors, and they either are terribly incompetent and must have been awful prosecutors, or they're just feigning ignorance for the purposes of political expediency, which is always an option. Even if you wanted to try to prosecute this officer at the local level, and you could get around a supremacy clause argument that basically the federal law enforcement officers have absolute immunity at the state and local level, and any prosecution would have to occur at the federal level. But even if you could get around that argument, the officer would still almost assuredly have the option to remove the case from the local jurisdiction and into federal court. But other than that, all this transparency and how can we trust it? How can we trust it? Have you looked at the Hennepin County State's Attorney, Kristen Welker? Of course not. But the other thing about this I love too is, wait. So Kristen, you're telling me that it's better when state and local cooperates with the federal? That's a concept. Wow. You mean that inspires more confidence? That's a better use of resources. That promotes transparency in government. Interesting. Except for enforcement of immigration law. That's somehow exempt. I see. Okay. Very persuasive. Corey Woodlawn.
Hey, thanks for taking the call, Dan. This mind virus that the Democrats are displaying, I don't know how they think they're making our communities safer by releasing these people back into our communities. It makes absolutely no sense. There was 2 women that flew into the O'Hare a couple of days ago with 48 pounds of cocaine, and they said that this didn't want to detain her. I mean, I grew up on the West Side in the 90s and in the 80s. A detainer? You would have been automatically detained. It makes no sense.
Yeah. Accepted. Right. Thanks for the call, Corey. But if it doesn't make any sense, then how do we make sense of it? Right? Somebody's political or financial or both interests have to be served by the posture almost the entire neo-Marxist party is taking. Almost the entire neo-Marxist party, with the exception of, say, Harold Ford.
We seem to be at a critical point where we're straining and testing the bonds of humanity. there's no doubt that the young lady in the car, at least the videos I've seen, and the videos today I think raise even more questions, but she was in the wrong. I think the second question is how do you remedy that? And I think what's disturbing to some on both sides, I think that I think the gentleman you had on earlier, the acting Homeland Security chief, said, we've reached a point where it's almost okay to defy law enforcement. When law enforcement asks you to do something, you should do it. But the question then becomes, if you don't do it, or you're acting somewhat either playfully not doing it or actively not doing it, what's the reaction it should be from law enforcement? And we've got to get beyond this retreating to both of our sides here, Democrat and Republican.
Yeah, Harold Ford, well, he's going to hear it. Obviously, she did wrong. Right, lost in all this is what ICE is doing. Lost in all this is the simple concept that you comply with lawful orders given by law enforcement. Lost in this is that impeding law enforcement activity is not a peaceful, lawful form of protest. The basics is what's lost in all this, amid all the hyperventilating for the and performance for the purposes of securing political capital from an unstable, unhinged base of that party. So as I go back to what Corey said, this makes no sense. No, not to the commonsensical person who doesn't have ideological blinders on. Of course it doesn't make sense. So how do you make it make sense? Look at whose interests are being served. Look at the opportunity this provides for certain politicians and organizations. Well, but people wouldn't do that knowing that other people could get hurt. Aren't you cute? Mary Kay in Western Springs.
Hi, good morning, Dan. Thanks for taking my call. I think these people just think they obviously think they're above the law. They can ram cars into cops and not have any repercussions.
Where did they get that idea? Maybe when they see Mary Moriarty say, yeah, it's okay to vandalize a half a dozen Teslas and victimize a half a dozen of your fellow residents because, we don't like Doge and you don't like Doge and that's fine. Yeah, where do they get the idea that certain people are above the law? Gee, I wonder.
Yeah. Dan, when we were learning how to drive as kids, my parents emphasized over and over again, you get pulled over, which I never have been in my life, knock wood. You put your hands on the wheel and you wait for the officer to come to the window and you do whatever he asks you. You present your ID and your registration and you don't drive off. You don't do anything. You put your hands where they can see them and it's a safe situation and nobody will get hurt.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Mary. When I get pulled over for speeding, which is not infrequently, I say, officer, could you get out of the way? I'm going to leave now. I mean, what? Most of us have been stopped, for a moving violation at some point or another, lane change, speeding, whatever, driving on two wheels, whatever it may be. And when you get pulled over, you just, hey, I'm not mad at you. And I don't, you just sort of, you're loosey-goosey with it. You decide if you're going to stay for the ticket or not. You decide if you're going to comply with the officer's lawful commands or not. And then, if he can't get out of the way when you decide to leave, well, that's on him. Right? That's on him, isn't it, Representative Omar?
If they are saying that he has 10 years on service and is trained, he should know that you shouldn't be trying to get in front of a moving car. And
yeah, that's completely his fault. He is trying to prevent someone who is not complying with lawful commands issued by other law enforcement officers from fleeing, because she's clearly a flight risk. She's not complying. And because she gunned her car at him and he didn't he did get out of the way, actually fairly agile for, a middle-aged gentleman. I think he is, roughly. But he defended himself in the process. That's totally on him. You got to give people a path to escape if they'd like to. Right, Representative? Jim in LaGrange.
Hey, Dan, good morning. That's some quote-unquote prosecutor up there in Minneapolis. She's a peach. Hey, listen, I my blood boils, Dan, when I hear the charges that these folks have on them, and we're trying to pick them up and get them out of our country. And what's forgotten once again is the basic premise that the victim is lost in the shuffle. These people are damaged. They didn't ask for this. They've been harmed. And I can't understand. It just doesn't make sense how you would side with the criminal in this situation and you forget about the victim. Gosh, Dan, I wish that there could be a victim's picture posted against every one of these creeps so that people could see. I know you can't do that, but I mean, the victim is critical to me here. And they're American citizens that have been victims for the most part, too. And that's another thing that really makes my blood boil. Thanks, brother. Have a great day.
Thanks, Jim. Well, right, which is why it's so important that that angel families speak up. And it doesn't need to be a murder or a death in the family that prompts victims from speaking up, of course. But like Joe Abraham, I hope you saw the commercial, the Ted Dabrowski commercial over the weekend during the Bears game. Joe Abraham is speaking up courageously. Our friend Brian McCann, who we've had on the show before, lost his brother Denny more than a decade ago to an illegal alien who was released by Tony Preckwinkle and the power structure in Cook County. Ran him down in the streets of Chicago, fled to Mexico. Just in the last year, 13 years after the fact, the McCann family, Southsiders, getting a little bit of justice for their fallen brother. But that's why they don't tell you the stories. That's why you have members of Congress vote against the Laken Riley Act. And that's why they're not going to get into the details. That's why you had the father whose daughter was murdered in her apartment in South Carolina, and testifying before Congress, and a representative, I think, from North Carolina, confused his daughter with another victim. They'll be brought in for a committee hearing. There'll be some perfunctory expressions of empathy and offers of condolences, but they want those victims' names and those families to disappear from the public domain as quickly as possible. They don't want to have a substantive, balanced conversation about the infliction of death and harm that has been imposed by open borders policies. And what we need to do to make sure, for example, as Tom Homan mentioned, we don't have hundreds of thousands of children trafficked and sex trafficked into this country, and we lose track of them, and there's no vetting of their sponsors that are receiving them, and there's no vetting of anybody. In the context of, okay, we're going to have some sort of legal immigration system, and we should. We're going to have some paths for asylum seekers who truly are fleeing religious or political persecution, and we should. So let's have a sensible conversation about what the legal regime looks like that provides for a orderly, sensible processing of people seeking entrance into this country that comports with the national security and economic interests of this country. We cannot have that conversation with the left. They don't have any interest in it. All their protestations otherwise. There is no compromise there. None to be had. And they're only digging their heels in deeper, even as they get, even in terms of what they have wrought, gets exposed more fully. They're committed, I'll tell you that. More on this and more of your calls at 6:06. It's now 6 a.m. on AM 560 WIND.
The situation is under total control. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's what Iran's foreign minister is saying about the protests that have raged for days, blaming Israel and the U.S.
They rule through violence, but we're looking at it very seriously. The military is looking at it, and we're looking at some Very strong options.
President Trump on Air Force One last night also says Iran wants to negotiate. He has threatened to take action if Iran kills protesters, and human rights activists say there have been more than 500 deaths, over 10,000 people taken into custody.
A source in Tehran has told the BBC that the city is like a war zone, with streets full of blood and bodies being taken away in trucks. Anti-government demonstrators have been on the streets for the past 2 weeks in cities across Iran. Authorities there have turned off the internet and telephone lines.
Fox's Jonathan Savage. There have been anti-ICE protests across America.
We want justice! We want peace!
That's in Los Angeles. In the anger over last week's shooting in Minneapolis that left a woman dead, Homeland Security maintains she was interfering with ICE operations and then drove toward an immigration agent. Secretary Kristi Noem tells Fox Sunday Morning Futures hundreds more agents are going to Minneapolis.
To allow our ICE and our Border Patrol individuals that are working in Minneapolis to do so safely.
The Federal Reserve Chairman is now under federal investigation over his testimony to Congress about Fed building renovations. The president has harshly criticized Jerome Powell for not cutting interest rates as much or as fast as he wants. The Fed chair, in a video statement last night, says,
"In every case, I have carried out my duties without political fear or favor."
They gave out the Golden Globes last night on CBS.
And the winner is One Battle After Another.
Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another about the deep political battles in America took home 4 awards, including Best Picture, Musical, or Comedy. Hamnet won 2, including Best Picture Drama.
Fox's Michelle Polino. The TV shows that won the pit the studio at adolescence. America's listening to Fox News.
WIND, Chicago.
Good morning. It's 29 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. The founder of Chicago Flips Red says Mayor Brandon Johnson and the Chicago Teachers Union don't talk about sexual abuse cases in the city's public schools. Jim Talamonte has the story.
According to the Chicago Board of Education's annual Inspector General report, the office's sexual allegations unit closed 335 cases with 55 substantiated findings of misconduct. The office said it substantiated 26 cases in fiscal year 2025. Mayor Brandon Johnson was asked about the report during a City Hall press briefing.
Well, obviously, this is, absolutely disturbing to hear, our communities, particularly our school communities, have to be a safe space.
Chicago Flips Red founder Zoe Lee said the mayor and Chicago Teachers Union leaders don't speak about misconduct in Chicago public schools.
They'll talk about police brutality. They'll talk about fighting law enforcement.
A man is in critical condition after being shot yesterday morning. According to reports, 26-year-old male was shot in the Rogers Park neighborhood. The shooter fled the scene and there are no suspects in custody at this time. And Cook County officials are urging residents to check their home for radon gas. January is Radon Action Month, and as such, Cook County Public Health is reminding homeowners to check for radon. Radon is a naturally occurring radioactive gas that can cause lung cancer. You can't see or smell radon, so testing is the only way to know your level of exposure. Free radon testing kits are available from the Cook County Public Health Department. Visit cookcountypublichealth.org for more info. This report is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Think full mouth dental implants are too expensive? Think again. Not at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. With medical insurance, you could save thousands and receive your finally affordable dream smile. Check if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Scott Jennings isn't impressed with the United Nations.
As well as thanking China and Russia for their support for holding of this meeting.
Okay, so Somalia is running a meeting. Colombia is thanking Russia and China for their support. This is the United Nations Security Council. You couldn't make this up. You couldn't make one of those Mad Libs this crazy if you tried.
The Scott Jennings Show. Weekdays at noon, right before Hugh Hewitt at 2 on AM 560. The Answer.
At AlmostFreeTeeth.com, they're dedicated to making smiles great again. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save 90% off on average to get a beautiful dental implant-supported smile. Check if you qualify right now at AlmostFreeTeeth.com.
Hey, I'm Steve Wyatt, and I want to invite you to the Wyatt Matters Show, which airs every Sunday on this station. You can expect lively discussion and heartfelt reflection that will both entertain and inspire you. And if we do it right, maybe deliver some genuine laughter as well. We talk about not only what matters, but also why it matters.
Wyatt Matters. Sunday morning at 6 on AM 560. The Answer.
Relief Factor loves hearing from pain-free customers and hopes that you're going to be the next that writes in. Kim wrote in and said, before trying Relief Factor, Glenn, I struggled just to make it through my work days. I'd collapse on the couch at night, aching everywhere. Within a few weeks of starting Relief Factor, that daily pain began to fade. Now I'm keeping up at work. I still have energy left for my family. My life has changed. Kim's is the story of thousands of kitchens and office desks and factory floors. The story of parents having more love to give because they have strength to share it. Relief Factor doesn't just ease pain, it restores your evening, your laughter, and the simple joy of just being present. Relief Factor has given me a big part of my life back, whether in the cold and elevation of our ranch or walks along the beaches with my wife in Florida. Relief Factor is 100% drug-free and targets the inflammation that causes pain so you can move better and feel better and actually enjoy life again. Try their 3-week quick start, $19.95. Go to relieffactor.com, 1-800-4RELIEF, 1-800-4RELIEF, and see if you're not the next to get out of pain.
Listen, I'm going to be straight with you. Pain doesn't just hurt your body, it cripples your life. I know this because I've seen it with people I care about. If joint pain is holding you back, start the new year by doing something different. There's a way to get real relief without surgery and without putting your life on pause. But you have to take that first step and contact my friends at QC Kinetics. They provide regenerative treatments that help your body repair the areas that are causing pain. I've talked to people who've been through this. These are real results. Achy knees, hips, shoulders, wherever it hurts, instead of facing surgery that sidelines you for months, QC Kinetics treatments happen in the office. Simple procedures that deliver big, life-changing results. January is supposed to be your clean slate month, so make it one. Stop managing the pain and start solving it. Call now to learn more and tell them Dan Proft, that's me, sent you when you do. The number 312-827-6261. That's 312-827-6261. Call QC Kinetics to start the year right. 312-827-6261.
Hello, this is Alistair Begg. In September of 2026, I'll be teaching the Bible as we cruise through the Norwegian fjords. I'd love for you to join me. Call 855-565-5519 or visit deeperfaithcruise.com.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. You're in great shape out there on the Eden, just 14 minutes inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose. Outbound is 18. The Kennedy is just 8 minutes in both directions from Montrose to the Burn Interchange. 14 minutes both ways on the Eisenhower from Wolf to the Old Post Office, but you are stop and go inbound between Manheim Road and 25th Avenue. The Stevenson looks pretty good right now from the Tri-State to Lakeshore. 17 minutes inbound. Outbound is 15. No delays on the Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn Interchange, 14 minutes. Outbound is 11. The Dan Ryan Express inbound starting to slow down from 35th Street to the Stevenson. And you are slow on the northbound side of Lakeshore Drive heading into Hollywood Avenue. This report is a service of the daily podcast of Chicago's Morning Answer and the Sean Thompson Show. Hear both shows with limited commercials when you subscribe for free to the daily podcast at 560theanswer.com/podcast. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect mostly sunny skies with a brisk breeze. The temperature will reach a high of 42. Tonight, clouds will start to increase, leading to a low of 33. Tomorrow will bring mostly cloudy conditions with a passing shower around midday and breezy conditions in the afternoon. Look for a high of 48. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. It was, like the summer of love in what was formerly Minneapolis this weekend, and in other cities, but particularly Minneapolis. Yeah. The good old days were back. The vandalizing of hotels where the mob suspected ICE personnel may be staying. There was for a moment, there was an autonomous zone that I guess was broken down And a memorial just remains to the woman that was shot and killed in that ICE officer-involved shooting last week. But they had a little autonomous zone going, blocking the street. A little Chaz action for those who remember the heady days of George Floyd unrest. Mostly peaceful. You've got all the pros out displaying their talents. One guy walking down the street with a mask on and two like paper mache decapitated ICE heads, holding them up. Quality stuff. You had ICE officers' vehicles being surrounded, people jumping on their hoods and sliding off before they could navigate around the crowd. See, they could navigate around the crowd in that instance, even though those individuals were committing crime, but the squeeze isn't worth the juice to get out a few ICE agents in a car when you've got dozens and dozens of people surrounding you, vandalizing your car, essentially assaulting you. A real threat of bodily harm. That's an assault. Not that Mary Moriarty, the Hennepin County State's Attorney, is interested in that, because this is, of course, a righteous assault, righteous vandalism. That's different. Just like Black Lives Matter protesters didn't need to worry about the virus because it was righteous, so they didn't have to wear masks. They didn't have to abide lockdowns. The scientists told us that. And so many good examples of the rich tapestry of ruffles that populate what was formerly known as Minneapolis, as well as the leafy suburbs. We understand the concept. It repeats itself throughout the country, including in Chicagoland. You know, there's a lot of ruffles out there, that don't know what to do with their tears in these moments. They're trying to be good identitarians, but they just don't know. There's one of those ruffles, just screeching at ICE agents, Nazis, murderers. And then additional physical confrontations took place there, instigated by the mob. Normally how it goes. This was the action in New York City. Save a life, kill an ICE. Almost rhymes. But again, some ruffles from the suburbs meandered in, or like the leafy, wealthy neighborhoods in what was formerly known as Minneapolis, and trying to figure out whether they should tear up, how to direct those tears. It's complicated.
So, I'm just walking around kind of just dazed-eyed because I was like, I don't know if it's the right thing to do. It feels kind of wrong being here in some way. I don't know why.
Why do you think, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know, like, where that stems from. Like, part of it is being like a white woman that I'm privileged and I have a lot of privilege. So I feel like white tears are not always something that's helpful or necessary when black and brown people have been experiencing this for a long time. This isn't new for them, and so I don't know if that makes any sense in that way.
No,
how did you decide that you should be here? Or are you still figuring that out?
Well, I work like 2 miles from here, so driving by, it's like I'm here. I'm 2 miles. I can stop.
Yeah, get thee back to River Forest. or the Minneapolis version of it. I don't know what to do. She doesn't know what to do with her ruffled tears. Sad. Others more aggressive, less reflective than she is. You're trying to figure out what to do in this moment. So confusing. Let the second wave feminists help the third wavers. Here's a good example of the more hostile second waver. Banging a drum and politely asking ICE agents if they'd like to shoot her in the face, too. I could listen to the dulcet tones of these ruffles all morning, couldn't you? They're delightful. They seem like nice people. One woman offered a hot take that indicated she had reflected on what occurred, unlike that confused ruffle. And she does know where to put her tears.
He shot her because she was queer. He shot her because she was queer. You can see so clearly. I didn't think that it was like that before, but when you see the footage, he shot her because she was queer. And you voted for this.
I know what you're thinking. Well, how would the officer have known that she was queer? Those are the kind of questions you're not allowed to ask because that delicate flower is feeling her feelings. We have to respect that without judgment or inquiry or good sense. It brings me to something I wanted to get to, an interesting analysis by this Xer who goes by the handle Data Republican that I want to get to. But first, Michael, Southside, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning, Dan. Thank you for taking my call. Yesterday, I made the mistake of watching the talk shows on CBS, NBC, and ABC yesterday, and they were beyond wretched. All three stations let Democrats go on their shows and make their substantiated claims with minimal challenge. And Kristen Welker was especially brutal. I'm sure you noticed at her end, at the end of her interview with Tom Homan, she tried to undercut him by bringing up the old allegation about him allegedly accepting a $50,000 bribe, even though that investigation was closed. So
yeah, but it's not closed. It's not closed until Hennepin County State's Attorney Mary Moriarty says it's closed. Michael,
right? Absolutely. And Margaret Brennan, I don't know how she got her job. I mean, she's blatantly biased and incompetent. She let Tina Smith, the senator from Minnesota, claim that the ICE agent who shot Good had exchanged banter with her and her wife, which was clearly not true. But that went over Mark Brennan's head. Just pathetic.
Thanks for the call, Michael. It is something. I mean, I appreciate Michael courageously enduring the Sunday talk shows. I try to do this as a selfless act so that you don't have to, and just play some of the lowlights for the purposes of illustration and discussion and greater understanding. But if you want to put yourself through it and see how tough you are, okay. Michael managed to run the gauntlet. Rick, Downers Grove.
Hey, good morning. I'm just trying to keep it clear. Now, these are the educated white suburban women doing this, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's why I make sure I got that straight.
Yes, these are highly educated women. They just don't know what to do with their tears all the time. Rick, that's all. Chris, Rogers Park.
Yeah, when this first happened, one of the early talking points was how much training does this officer have?
Oh, yeah.
For putting people out there quickly. But here's the real question. How much training do these protesters have? I mean, we've got aldermen out here running around training people to disrupt, to impede. Are they training in de-escalation? No, the whole point is escalation. It's just really silly. You've got a bunch of Y moms out there and drama kids and theater kids that are either knowingly or stupidly putting themselves in these positions to be basically pawns in the game and sacrificed. It's really sad.
Thanks for the call, Chris. Data Republican. How and why Minnesota is a failed state. I guess Data Republican's got a book coming out in which she argues that late-stage empires don't fail because they are weak or poorly intentioned. They fail because they become autopoietic. Autopoiesis is a term from systems theory. It actually is from biology, sort of self-generating. But as she writes, it means a system responds to reality only through the constraints of its own internal organization. It becomes self-perpetuating. You almost certainly, these are her words, you almost certainly encountered autopoietic institutions, even if you didn't have a name for them. A corporation where middle management defines OKRs that have no relationship to customers, yet performance reviews insist everything is quote-unquote on track. OKRs, objectives, and key results, for those not steeped in corporate speak. Another example, a bureaucracy that measures success by compliance with procedure rather than outcomes. A late Soviet state in which leadership was reassured by reports everyone knew were false, but which could no longer be contradicted without threatening the system itself. A closed system. Actually, our friend Jeff Carter wrote about this a couple of years ago. We've discussed a couple of times over the years, sort of the same idea. This is what Chicagoland and by extension Illinois has become too. Autopoietic systems lose the capacity for the environment to redefine their purpose. Inputs still arrive, but they are reinterpreted until they are compatible with the system's existing outputs. Feedback loops close. Contradictions are absorbed. External signals stop producing corrective changes in internal behavior. At that point, the system is no longer adaptive relative to its original purpose. It becomes self-referential. It is capable of internally justified expansion without reference to its external success. All that matters is the inputs into the system. And so this is the more inputs into systems that are not producing outputs. Think government schools. Think particularly the Chicago public school system. That's another good example, which is sort of a late Soviet state in the form of a school system. So the institutions don't lie in the usual sense of the word. They just maintain their equilibrium. And so what matters most is the stability of the system, even if the output is chaos in the environment that exists within the system, you see. So that's what's happening. And let me give you an example of this. A timely little riff by Data Republican. It's not, again, dissimilar to anything that we haven't said in description of Chicago. It's just the use of the term autopoiesis, which is always fun. Learn a new term if you hadn't heard that before. But I'll give you an example of what she's talking about, what we've been talking about for many moons on this program. You heard about the fraud going on in Minnesota, did you? You know, the Somali daycares and assisted living facilities and medical transport businesses and so on and so forth. And in Seattle, Boston. Well, in Minnesota specifically. The response to all that has, been reported for a decade and was brought to a head with Nick Shirley's video the other week leading to Field Marshal Tim's decision not to run for re-election last week. The response to that from one of the perpetuators of the internal system. The kleptocracy, the internal system in Minnesota, like the internal system in Illinois. The response? Enter U.S. Senator Joni Ernst from Iowa. She discovered an earmark that she found interesting. Wanted to draw attention to it.
What I uncovered the other day in one of our spending bills making its way through Congress was a $1 million earmark from Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota, which was an earmark that was supposedly going to a substance abuse clinic, which actually happened to be housed in a restaurant and run by 3 individuals that share the same residential address, according to their IRS paperwork. Tons of red flags. So this is what we saw with the fraud involving the daycare centers. Now we see other earmarks coming directly from members of Congress where it seems fraud is being perpetrated as well.
So the response from Ilhan Omar to the, so even if, she didn't know about the Quality Leering Center and so on and so forth, I bet she did. But let's just say she didn't until recent reports. And she put in for that earmark some time ago, reporting on this for a decade. Okay, sure. Did she know about the 6 or 7 dozen indictments with the Feeding Our Future scam? Well, she did because she's commented on it. Did she withdraw the earmark when she learned of this systemic fraud? No, she did not. $1 million earmark for fraudsters in Minneapolis, because the most important thing is to continue the inputs to protect the stability of the system and their power, regardless of the outputs, regardless of the consequences, regardless of the reality on the ground. And then you do enough of the funding of NGOs to quash a understanding of reality, the system doesn't respond to adverse inputs with course corrections, adverse data ignored or explained away. By any objective measure, GDP per capita, student test scores, outbound migration, Minnesota is failing. Sound familiar? The state is failing in the sense the system is no longer producing positive outcomes for the majority of its citizens, but the system is still working extremely well for the people in charge. As a great man once said, Illinois isn't broken, it's fixed. Well, the same in Minnesota. Many misinterpret the concept of failure. Yes, there are still nice restaurants where you can enjoy a lovely meal. There are still majestic landscapes to gaze upon, Lake Superior. You're almost certain on any given day to drive the length of East Lake Street from I-35 West to Hiawatha without being carjacked. But in fact, Minnesota is in terminal decline. The system doesn't adapt relative to its purpose. The purpose of the system, the output is always the same. More NGOs, more taxpayer dollars, more institutional capture, more managed disorder. That's the equilibrium of the system. That's what works for the people in charge. So going back to our call from Corey from Woodlawn earlier in the program, this is nuts. This doesn't make any sense to you because you're not on the inside. But to those on the inside that want to maintain equilibrium because it serves them quite well, this makes perfect sense. Let's compound repeat violent offenders who are United States citizens being committing crime after crime after crime without long-term, if not permanent, incarceration by inviting a whole host of people from around the world, some significant percentage of which will add to this managed disorder. The totalitarian's oxymoron, managed disorder, but it is. To be clear, managed disorder refers to both the crime in the streets and the violent resistance to the federal government. Both are tools to maintain equilibrium to the ruling system. And there are all sorts of useful idiots like that Raffle who doesn't know what to do with her tears that help those kleptocrats in charge maintain the equilibrium to their benefit. The response to the fraud, $9 billion, $19 billion, is $1 million earmark for another group of fraudsters. How does that make sense if you don't look at it through the proper lens? How does this make sense in New York City? What's Zohran Mamdani doing? Is he worried? Is Governor Pritzker worried? Is Gavin Newsom worried? Is Kathy Hochul worried about the same thing being visited upon them that was visited upon Tim Walz? Mamdani with Kathy Hochul making this announcement just the other day.
Not only when we make pre-K truly universal, but expand this care to include all 2- and 3-year-olds across the city. As the governor said, we will deliver to care by working in partnership with child care providers, especially home-based providers who have been doing this work without thanks or recognition for far too long.
And then it was Kathy Hochul's turn next, and she talked about $4.5 billion increase in the commitment by the state of New York to these home daycare providers. Now, I'm not saying that daycare is inherently fraudulent or there isn't some purpose to it, but I am suggesting that the party that was interested in maintaining the integrity of the programs the government runs and being respectful of the taxpayer, of the dollars they extract from taxpayers, would be having a conversation about more than inputs. Nowhere in that press conference was there even the acknowledgement. Because of what we've seen in Minnesota and what's been reported in Seattle and Boston and around the country, we're also going to institute these safeguards. We're going to have some front-end protections to make sure this money actually goes to particularly to people who are in particular need of these services, and that there is oversight so that this is really about providing this option for lower income people, single moms, and so forth. That wasn't part of the conversation. Why? Because there's no interest in that. It's exactly what Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson, the newly minted socialist, just like Mamdani, socialist mayor of Seattle, when she was asked last week. Amid these reports of fraudsters frauding the transfer payments, the benefits programs in Seattle, have you directed anybody to investigate? One-word answer: no. Of course not. Keeping the inputs flowing protects the equilibrium. Funding my NGOs, state, city dependence, government dependence. And any opposition is cast as attacking the truly vulnerable. Exploiting single moms for the benefit of the bourgeois. Self-referential, crowding out dissent. And the one thing I would add to this, of course, is that in all of these states and cities, the failure or the allowance of this sort of kleptocracy, I mean, part of that blame should be ascribed to the Republican parties in those states, including in Illinois, and certainly Minnesota and Massachusetts and Maine and Washington State and Oregon, for failing to be awake at the switch and or failing to have the courage to chart a different vision by calling out what is. These fixed, closed systems. Rick in Des Plaines, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Morning, Dan. You mentioned a big fancy word earlier, that woman.
Yes.
I forget the word.
Autopoiesis, yes.
Yeah. Don't even ask me to try and pronounce that, let alone spell it.
All right.
But you know me. I'm an old telecom/IT guy, and I can sum all this up in 4 words. We used to say garbage in, garbage out. You get out what you put into it.
Thanks for and who you put at top of it. Thanks for the call, Rick. Coming up at 6:36. It's not just Roffles who don't know where to put their tiers, their honky tiers. It's also the Portland police chief. We'll start there. 6:36. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 29 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. A Chicago man is in custody for the shooting death of a dentist and his wife in Ohio. According to reports, Michael McKee has been charged in the shooting death of his ex-wife Monique Tippie and her husband Spencer Tippie. McKee is scheduled to appear in an Ohio courtroom later today. A man has died following a house fire. According to reports, that blaze broke out around 3 o'clock in the 4700 block of Damien Avenue in the city's southwest side. The man was taken to Stroger Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. And the Bears will be hosting the Los Angeles Rams in the NFL Divisional Round playoff game on Sunday. The Cardiac Bears lived up to their nickname after a crazy come-from-behind win against the Packers Saturday night. After trailing the first 3 quarters, Bears scoring 25 points in the fourth quarter, securing their place in next week's division playoffs. A time for Sunday's game has yet to be announced. This report is a service of Goldilocks, offering Chicagoland state-of-the-art smart security systems to protect your home or business. AM 560 listeners receive 3 months of monitoring free with new installs. Get peace of mind by calling Goldilocks at 708-889-5600. Again, that's 708-889-5600. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Hugh Hewitt explains our involvement in Venezuela.
They are not generating any revenue from their oil right now. They can't move it unless we allow it to move, because we have sanctions, because we're enforcing those sanctions.
They are running Venezuela through the leverage they have over the only thing that Venezuela has that can make currency for the police state that is largely still in power there after Maduro was taken to the United States.
The Hugh Hewitt Show. Afternoons at 2, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
Hi, this is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. 3 things were said in the aftermath of the remarkable Operation Absolute Resolve in Venezuela that sum up well what some have called the Donroe Doctrine. During the press conference that followed the impressive military action, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said, quote, "President Trump doesn't play games. The president must be taken seriously." And Rubio's absolutely right. He doesn't. Just a bit after Rubio was done, President Trump declared simply but directly, "Life is a deal. The president doesn't ask for unreasonable things, and our enemies and adversaries do well to deal with him." And then on Air Force One on Sunday, a reporter asked the president what would happen next in Venezuela. President Trump replied, "It depends. The administration is watching closely how, in this case, Venezuela responds." There in those 3 short statements is, in a nutshell, what we have tagged the Donroe Doctrine. It seems pretty simple to me. The U.S. is no longer playing games.
They say timing is everything in the gold and silver markets, and it's true. Dennis Prager here for AmFed Coin and Bullion. Although you can buy at the right time, if you buy the wrong coins, you may not make a profit. When gold was $400 an ounce, many people were talked into buying high-grade old gold and silver collector's coins. Unfortunately, most of the people who bought these so-called semi-numismatic coins, like the $20 St. Gaudens and Liberty Head gold coins, have not broken even on their investment. Incredible, given that gold has risen approximately 525% since then. So while timing is everything, if you buy the wrong coins, the timing simply doesn't matter. Having a dealer who cares about positioning you in the right types of coins or bullion will mean more to your portfolio than anything else. That's why I deal with Nick Rovich and AmFed Coin and Bullion. Whether you're buying or selling, call 800-221-7694. That's 800-221-7694. Or go to AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com.
Start the new year off on a healthier note by taking Active Liver Supplements from New Nordic every day. Available online at Amazon or NewNordicUSA.com or at your local CVS, ShopRite, Meijer Grocery, or Wegmans.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. We're jammed now on the inbound Eisenhower between Wolf and 25th Avenue with a collision taking out the left lane at 25th Avenue. It is completely jammed, so it's 23 minutes now from Wolf to the old post office, outbound still 13. You also have a collision on the Tri-State, southbound just after Route 137, so that's going to slow you down. The Eden looks good, 14 minutes both ways from Lake Cook to Montrose. No delays at all on the Kennedy from Montrose to the Burn interchange in both directions, just 8 minutes. Inbound Stevenson from the Tri-State to Lakeshore is 16 minutes, outbound is 15. The Dan Ryan is 13 minutes inbound from 95th to the Burn interchange. This report is a service of Capital One. Earn unlimited double miles on every purchase with the Capital One Venture X business card. Big purchasing power means you can spend more and earn more. The Capital One Venture X business card. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect mostly sunny skies with a breeze reaching a high of 42. Tonight will bring increasing cloudiness with a low of 33. Tomorrow, anticipate mostly cloudy conditions with a brief shower around midday and breezy weather in the afternoon, reaching a high of 48. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Across the way from what was formerly known as Minnesota, in Portlandia, if only it was as entertaining as the Fred Armisen sitcom, sketch comedy show, I guess. Better, more accurate. This from DHS. Yesterday, it's a couple days ago, but two suspected Tren de Aragua gang associates let loose on American streets by Joe Biden weaponized their vehicle against Border Patrol in Portland. The agents took immediate action to defend himself and others, shooting them. The driver of the vehicle is a criminally illegal alien from Venezuela and suspected Tren de Aragua member. He illegally entered the United States in 2022 and was released into the country by the previous administration. Since then, he was arrested for DUI and unauthorized use of a vehicle. He has a final order of removal. Not that Portland or Oregon authorities are particularly interested in that. The passenger, she is a criminal illegal alien from Venezuela and is associated with Tren de Aragua. She illegally entered the United States in 2023 near El Paso and was released into the country by the previous administration. Familiar story. Since illegally entering, she has played an active role in a Tren de Aragua prostitution ring and was involved with a prior shooting in Portland. That's what Department of Homeland Security said. Well, what do local authorities say, Dan? Because, there's often disagreement between about what transpired between the state and the local, particularly when the local is a sanctuary city or sanctuary state. Yeah. Well, here's Portland Police Chief Bob Day, who is perhaps displaced what was former Minneapolis, their police chief, Brian O'Hara, as the worst big city police chief in the country. Tearing up when discussing these Tren de Aragua bangers who tried to run down ICE agents with their vehicle.
And what I can say is there is an association with the two folks yesterday and TDA. I hesitated to even share this information initially because I'm very aware of the historic injustice of victim blaming, oftentimes portrayed by law enforcement, including this very agency that I've represented so proudly for so many years. And historically, we have not been quick to disclose the potential criminal history of others. But I felt it was imperative because I was asked yesterday in the news conference what information we have. This is information we have. This in no way draws a through line to the actions or the behaviors that occurred yesterday. I want to speak for just a moment specifically to my Latino community. It saddens me that we even have to qualify these remarks, because I understand, or at least have attempted to understand through your voices, your concern, your fear, your anger. This information in no way is meant to disparage or to condone or support or agree with any of the actions that occurred yesterday. But it is important that we stay committed to the rule of law, that we stay committed to the facts, that we stay a trustworthy and legitimate police department for all of Portlanders.
So you don't legitimize or condone which part? The part where an ICE agent defended himself from these two TDA bangers who tried to run him down? Or the two TDA bangers that tried to run him down? Which don't you condone? I'm a little confused. And you're saddened to the point of tears. By the way, there's no crying in law enforcement. You're saddened to the point of tears to disclose that the two individuals that tried to run down a ICE agent are from Venezuela and they're gangbangers? Victim blame? Wait, who's the victim here? They're the victims? What is this concern about victim blaming? I'm as befuddled as Chief Day is here, but this is a good example of what exactly we were just talking about, the self-referential, closed society that does not respond to adverse events or reality, that just perpetuates the inputs needed to maintain equilibrium so that everybody gets their paycheck and their pension and their state grants. What would be insulting to me if I was a person of Latino extraction living in Portland is somebody that's concerned that I would take offense to a disclosure that is true of gangbangers attacking a law enforcement officer because somehow that would implicate me because I'm also from Venezuela or some other South American or Central American country. What does a gangbanger have to do with me just because we share a similar country of origin or ethnicity? Nothing. Only an identitarian simpleton, a sentimental barbarian, would say such a thing. And that apparently is what the Portland Police Chief, Bob Day, is. But when you can't even count on reality-based disclosures from law enforcement, then you're in real trouble. And, of course, Portland is. I mean, at least here, Larry Snelling, Chicago police chief, had the self-respect during the height of Operation Midway Blitz, where we also had people using their vehicles as weapons and or to flee, which is also illegal. At least Snelling had the good sense to say, you don't do that. You obey a lawful order given by a law enforcement officer. You don't use your vehicle as a weapon. There's no tolerance for that. That is not appropriate, whether you, no matter whether or not you disagree with the overarching policy. At least Larry Snelling maintained his integrity as a law enforcement officer. I wish I could say the same about police chiefs in other big cities like Portland and what was formerly known as Minneapolis, but of course I can't based on what they have said themselves. And the mealy-mouthed silliness coming from that Portland police chief against the backdrop where there has been a 1,300% increase in assaults, a 3,200% increase in vehicular attacks, and an 8,000 increase in death threats against ICE officers over the last fiscal year, as I understand the data here. This was put out by DHS on Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, which was the end of last week, Friday. And it again memorialized some of the worst people who are in this country illegally who have been apprehended by ICE. And that's the point. And I would think that's something that everyone could roundly celebrate, but no time to address that because we have to make sure that the Portland police chief and Raffles in Minneapolis know where to put their tears. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. We have to get to the bottom of this cover-up that is occurring in what was formerly known as Minneapolis. That's not me saying it. That's esteemed Senator Tina Smith from Minnesota alleging that on This Week yesterday.
I mean, I think what we are seeing here is the federal government, Kristi Noem, Vice President Vance, Donald Trump, attempting to cover up what happened here in the Twin Cities. And I don't think that people here and around the country are believing it. I mean, I can tell you what is going on right now in my community in the days after Renee Good was shot and killed. There is just chaos. With ICE agents grabbing American citizens, detaining them, arresting them, and as we've seen, shooting and killing them. And this deportation campaign of the Trump administration is hurting our public safety here in the Twin Cities, and it is dangerous, and it must stop.
How is the cover-up occurring? I mean, how many videos of the incident have we seen where the entire nation is debating whether or not it was a legitimate self-defense action or not? Because everyone who wants to see it has seen the video. Where's the cover-up exactly? And this deportation campaign is imperiling public safety, not enhancing it. Again, just a handful of those taken into custody by ICE since they had the 2,000 agent surge in what was formerly known as Minneapolis. A Laotian illegal convicted of strong-arm sodomy of a boy and strong-arm sodomy of a girl with a deportation order since 2018. Senator Smith, should he stay or should he go? A Laotian illegal convicted of sexual assault, sodomy of a girl under the age of 13, procuring a child for prostitution with a deportation order since 2006. Stay or go? Senator? A Laotian illegal convicted of strong-arm rape of a 12-year-old girl and kidnapping of a child with intent to sexually assault her, deportation order since 2004. Stay or go? A Mexican illegal convicted of sexual assault and a DUI with a deportation order since 2016. A Somali illegal alien convicted of homicide. A Salvadorian illegal convicted of 3 counts of homicide with a deportation order since 2025. 3 counts of homicide since June of 2025. Mexican illegal convicted of homicide who's been previously deported in 2002. A Sudanese illegal convicted of homicide. A Sierra Leone illegal convicted of 2 counts of homicide with a deportation order since 2022. A Mexican illegal convicted of homicide with a deportation order since 2015. A Somali illegal convicted of manslaughter with a deportation order since 2022. These are the people that we need to maintain, who need to maintain their residency here. Otherwise, our safety will be imperiled. They need to stay because the deportation campaign is imperiling public safety, you said. You'll be surprised to learn Martha Raddatz didn't follow up with that question. Vedette in Michigan. You're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, Dan, good morning. I just cannot get over how people have stopped the ability to think, the ability to process information or go after additional information because we can't rely on the mainstream media and wait for the results or wait for further investigation. I've had conversations with some other friends of mine, women, and right away I said, wait for the facts to come out, wait for the information to come out. The lack of common sense is astounding. I cannot, me as a woman, I understand. I don't want rapists. I don't want child rapists out in this world. But yet these still-witted women who can't, for whatever reason, have some matter of thought process, can't see this. It's to the point where I have a sign that says common sense is not a gift, it's a punishment because other people don't have it. And I can't, and it's just to the point where I got to let it go because I don't want it to affect my life, but the stupidity of others are going to affect my life.
Yeah, we all feel a little bit like Cassandras, don't we, Vedette? It's pretty exasperating. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Deborah, Arlington Heights.
Good morning, Dan. I don't know why people aren't crying for the victims of gang violence or crying for the victims of people that die from overdoses from gangs bringing drugs into this country. And, oh, by the way, it is irresponsible as a human being and a parent particularly to intentionally go and try to interfere with police or ICE or whoever, try to interfere with those people. If I did that, I would hope my family would be going, what is your problem? What would you be thinking of doing something like that? That is totally irresponsible. Totally irresponsible.
Thanks, Deborah. Jerry, Milwaukee.
Yeah, morning, Dan. I'm totally dumbfounded. I'm almost at a loss here about that guy in Portland. I mean, but unfortunately, this is what qualifies as leadership in this country. And I can only say this. Thank God for Eisenhower and Patton in World War II. That's all I got to say.
Thanks, Jerry. Kevin, Austin, Texas.
I'm curious what Sean Casten has to think about this. I think everybody who's listening to the show should call his office and just give Sean Casten a hard time about this. Every precinct, GOP precinct chair in his congressional district should get organized and then put pressure on Sean Casten to come out in public as far as what he has to think about this.
Thanks for the call, Kevin. I'd like certainly include Casten, but I'd like to focus to start at the top, and that would be where Jelly Belly resides.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Dan Proft here to tell you about an opportunity for you to promote your business and to make a difference this Christmas season. I'm talking about our Food for the Poor Business Benefactor Program. We've partnered with Food for the Poor to provide life-saving food and water for thousands of children and their families in Latin America and the Caribbean. Your business can be a part of this effort. Become a Food for the Poor business benefactor by making a $2,500 tax-deductible donation to Food for the Poor. That donation will help more than 30 children for an entire year. And when you do that, AM 560 will give you 40 one-minute commercials to air here on AM 560 The Answer between 5 a.m. and 8 p.m. Monday through Friday at no additional cost to you. To take advantage of this deal, just call John Gallagher at 847-472-8950. Again, that's 847-472-8950. One more time, the number, 847-472-8950. Or go to 560theanswer.com/food for the poor. That website again, 560theanswer.com/food for the poor.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up at 7:07, has Iran crossed the red line, necessitating action from President Trump? We'll start there with Stephen Bushy at 7:07. It's now 7 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
The head of the Fed being investigated by the feds.
I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. It's a criminal probe, as Fox's Jill Nato reports, after a lot of criticism from the White House.
President Trump has often demanded Fed Chair Jerome Powell lower interest rates, saying it'll pump up the U.S. economy. But Powell didn't do it right away due to concerns it could spur inflation. All this happened as the Fed headquarters were getting renovated. Powell testified to Congress about that, and now the DOJ is looking into whether he was forthcoming in that testimony. Powell put out a video saying the investigation's really being done because he angered the president.
Public service sometimes requires standing firm in the face of threats.
The anti-ICE protests are nationwide. That's in Austin, Texas, and the outcry over last week's shooting in Minneapolis they call murder. The Homeland Security insists Renee Good was interfering with ICE and drove toward an immigration agent.
DHS sources tell Fox up to 1,000 additional agents could surge the ground here in Minneapolis in the coming days and weeks. And that comes as DHS Secretary Kristi Noem is defending her assessment of that Renee Good shooting video as domestic terrorism. But the Democratic mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, disagrees and is slamming Secretary Noem.
That's Fox's Matt Finn. There are Death to America chants in Iran and a big demonstration that's counter to the days of protests across Iran calling for regime change, leading to a crackdown. Human rights groups report more than 500 deaths. President Trump has threatened to take action.
Well, he may meet with them. I mean, a meeting is being set up, but we may have to act because of what's happening.
The president also tells reporters on Air Force One Venezuelan oil will no longer go to Cuba to support the regime there.
We're going to take care of the people that came from Cuba that are American citizens or in our country.
They gave out the Golden Globes last night, handed it in one battle after another, with the winning movies, The Pit, The Studio, and Adolescence, the top TV shows. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 30 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560. The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. A Chicago surgeon is in custody after allegedly murdering his ex-wife and her husband. Fox's Dana Marie McNichol has the details.
Law enforcement searched for a killer for almost 2 weeks, and now the investigation has led them to that ex-husband, who police say used his own car to drive to the murder scene. So here's what we know about 39-year-old Michael David McKee. He is a vascular surgeon from Chicago. He's now in jail accused of murdering his ex-wife, Monique Tepe, and dentist husband, Spencer Tepe, in their Columbus home. Now, McKee and Tepe was married in 2015 until she filed for divorce in 2017, which appeared to be amicable, according to local reports. They had no kids together.
The couple's 2 young children were in the home during the attack, and they were unharmed. 2 Chicago police officers have been placed on administrative leave following a traffic stop early this morning. According to reports, the officers conducting the stop noticed a gun in the driver's lap. One of those officers fired his weapon following an encounter with the driver. While the driver was not shot, he was treated at the scene for minor cuts from broken glass, and he was taken into custody. The 2 officers were transported to the hospital for observation. 18 dogs have been seized following a drug bust in Ford Heights. Officials say weapons, illegal drugs, and cash were also seized during the raid. 2 men have been arrested. The dogs have been placed with Cook County Animal Control. And the Bears will be hosting the Los Angeles Rams in the NFL Divisional Round playoff game Sunday. Cardiac Bears living up to their nickname after their crazy come-from-behind win against the Packers Saturday night. Time for Sunday's game has yet to be announced. This report is a service of the AM 560 mobile app. Listen to AM 560 on your smartphone or mobile device when you download the AM 560 mobile app at 560theanswer.com/mobile. Or you can text the word app to 64636. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Mike Gallagher sees it get political very quickly.
We've got a mile worth of receipts of Democrats demanding that Trump do what he did. Chuck Schumer rips Donald Trump for ending the Maduro regime after he previously ripped him for not ending the Maduro regime. You can't make this crap up.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9 on AM 560. The Answer.
Honey, I can't deal with this kitchen anymore. It's cramped and everything is outdated.
I know, but it makes no sense to move. I could call my contractor buddy Chad.
Babe, you've seen Chad's house, right?
Yeah, good point.
Plus, he showed up late for his own wedding. Let's get someone who's reliable.
How about Forever Remodeling? They have a team of interior designers, master installers, and project managers all under one roof.
Their reviews on Google look amazing, and homeowners post a ton of pictures of their work.
It looks like they even offer 3D rendering of their projects.
Just like my TV design shows.
Exactly.
Plus, AM 560 listeners get a free in-home design consultation.
From kitchens to bathrooms, basements to whole homes, the design build team at Forever Remodeling takes the stress out of remodeling. They're done on time and guaranteed to match your vision. Visit them online at foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4everremodeling.com. Forever Remodeling, stress-free and high-quality remodeling.
Relief Factor loves hearing from pain-free customers and hopes that you're going to be the next that writes in. Kim wrote in and said, before trying Relief Factor, Glenn, I struggled just to make it through my work days. I'd collapse on the couch at night, aching everywhere. Within a few weeks of starting Relief Factor, that daily pain began to fade. Now, I'm keeping up at work. I still have energy left for my family. My life has changed. Kim's is the story of thousands of kitchens and office desks and factory floors. The story of parents having more love to give because they have strength to share it. Relief Factor doesn't just ease pain, it restores your evening, your laughter, and the simple joy of just being present. Relief Factor has given me a big part of my life back, whether in the cold and elevation of our ranch or walks along the beaches with my wife in Florida. Relief Factor is 100% drug-free and targets the inflammation that causes pain so you can move better and feel better and actually enjoy life again. Try their 3-week quick start, $19.95. Go to relieffactor.com, 1-800-4RELIEF, 1-800-4RELIEF, and see if you're not the next to get out of pain.
At Terra Vista of Oakbrook Terrace, dementia care isn't just what we do, it's all we do. We specialize in caring for those with Alzheimer's and other types of dementia. We're on the forefront of dementia care with a barrier-free, stress-free environment, so residents can explore safely and feel at home. But what truly sets Terra Vista apart? Personalized care. We take the time to learn each resident's story, where they lived, their routines, former careers, even the names of family members. Anyone who interacts with your loved one can immediately make them feel comfortable and understood. We meet our residents right where they are. Residents stay strong and engaged with multi-sensory activities, music, art, horticulture, our beautiful 18,000 square foot outdoor space, and even a personal trainer. At Terra Vista, residents aren't defined by their dementia. We honor the whole person. Speak to an advisor or schedule a tour today at terravista.org. Again, that's terravista.org, and tell them AM 560 sent you.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Big mess now on the Dan Ryan. The left lane is blocked inbound at 95th Street with a collision, so it's 17 minutes from 95th to the Burn Interchange. Outbound is 12. You also have a stall in the express lanes inbound at 31st Street. It's off on the right shoulder, but that is slowing you down just a bit. 26 minutes inbound on the Stevenson from the Tri-State to Lakeshore. Outbound is 17, and on the Tri-State southbound jammed into Route 137. All because of a collision taking out the right lane, and this is causing slowdowns on the Reagan Memorial, so it is stop and go from Roosevelt Road all the way to the Tri-State eastbound. The Eisenhower is 24 minutes inbound from Wolf to the old post office. Outbound is 17. This report is a service of Salem Surround, a local digital marketing agency providing high-performing digital solutions to surround your target audience. Go to surroundchicago.com today. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect mostly sunny skies with a breeze reaching a high of 42. Tonight will bring increasing cloudiness with a low of 33. Tomorrow, anticipate mostly cloudy conditions with a brief shower around midday and breezy weather in the afternoon, reaching a high of 48. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. The rhetoric is being ratcheted up. Can action be too far behind? Talking about President Trump over the last several days, restating his commitment repeatedly to back the protesters in Iran if the regime's response in Tehran is to try to repress the protests through killing and imprisonment, which has been the approach so far, it would seem. Rich Goldberg over at Foundation for Defense of Democracies posted 2,500 to 3,000 is the latest estimate of Iranian protesters killed by the regime. Conservative estimates include at least another 2,600 that have been arrested. And you know how that usually ends at the hands of the mullahs. Protests have erupted in more than 180 cities across the country, despite the government shutting down the internet. And Starlink has an answer for that, which is why we're getting images from in-country. There have been at least 628 protests in Iran since late December. And this, in part, as we talked about last week, the animating dynamic is inflation, north of 50% and increasing. And the response from the regime is a $7 a month stipend. That is not going to cut it. Here's what Trump had to say on Air Force One, including the more bellicose rhetoric coming from Tehran, threatening America if President Trump were to take action.
Sir, on Iran, have they crossed your red line yet to trigger a response?
No, they're starting to, it looks like, and there seem to be some people killed that aren't supposed to be killed. These are violent, if you call them leaders, I don't know if they're leaders or just they rule through violence. But we're looking at it very seriously. The military is looking at it, and we're looking at some very strong options. We'll make a determination.
Iran said that they would consider military and commercial bases as legitimate targets if you struck. Are you concerned about...
If they do that, we'll consider things targets they wouldn't believe. If they do that, we will hit them at levels that they've never been hit before. They won't even believe it.
So if Trump were to strike in support of the protesters and Iran were to strike back at American military bases, then you heard what President Trump had said, then we'll come back over the top in a way that they won't believe. I would expect they should believe, given the Trump administration's decimation of their nuclear facilities during their 12-day war with Israel not so long ago. He restated that commitment on Hannity, did the president.
So if there is mass murder by the Iranian Ayatollahs and those leadership, you're pledging to the people of Iran that you will come to their aid.
I've said it very loud and very clear. Yeah, that's what we're going to do.
I have.
Said it very loud and very clear. If they start killing people, he said again that he is going to be there. So the question becomes, what is the red line?
How long do you think the Ayatollah will be in power after what we've seen play out on the ground there? When is the U.S. going to get involved now that reports of protesters being killed on the ground?
So Iran's in big trouble. It looks to me that the people are taking over certain cities that nobody thought were really possible just a few weeks ago. We're watching the situation very carefully. I've made the statement very strongly that if they start killing people like they have in the past, we will get involved. We'll be hitting them very hard where it hurts. And that doesn't mean boots on the ground, but it means hitting them very, very hard where it hurts. So we don't want that to happen. There have been cases like this where President Obama totally backed down. But this is something pretty incredible that's happening in Iran. It's an amazing thing to watch. They've done a bad job. They've treated their people very badly, and now they're being paid back. So let's see what happens.
Well, hitting them very hard where it hurts doesn't necessarily mean military strikes. Certainly doesn't foreclose them, but doesn't necessarily mean that, I believe. But for more on this, we're pleased to be joined for a weekly conversation with Stephen Bucci. You served America for 3 decades as an Army Special Forces officer and top Pentagon official. Now a visiting fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen?
It's good to be on the show.
So we're going to hit them where it hurts. What are the options to do that, to accomplish that?
Well, that's an interesting phraseology that he used there, because it does keep the window open pretty broadly. That could be economically.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've got good, strong sanctions on them. We could tighten them up even further. It could mean some sort of direct support to the protesters, or it could be hitting targets, maybe military, but more than likely the IRGC facilities would. That's what I would think they would target, because they use the IRGC Quds Force fellows much more often with crowd suppression than they do the straight up military. Those guys are kind of the bully boys or the brown shirts of this regime, and they have a much bigger domestic mission than the regular military does. So if I were recommending targets, that's what I would go after is the IRGC facilities, their barracks, their training areas, wherever we could get some of those folks and take them off the playing board. That would be helpful. But it's a pretty broad statement. So I think the economics, that stuff is all still on the table, clearly.
Well, yeah, let me speak to that for a second and get your perspective. A couple of eggheads from the Foundation for Defense of Democracies argued in an op-ed that, look, Tehran still exports more than 2 million barrels of oil a day, which generates revenue to fund proxies, oppress the Iranian people, advance a ballistic missile and nuclear program. They do this essentially with the assent of America. It doesn't have to be this way. And so what they suggest is tracking and confiscating oil tankers, like the U.S. has done with Venezuela. They're the Iranian so-called shadow fleet. They're illicitly transporting Iranian oil to China and undermining Trump's policy of maximum pressure. And they argue, additionally, it won't require action by Congress. The U.S. has legal tools to handicap the fleet today because civil forfeiture allows the U.S. to seize the illicit cargo and the tanker itself. What do you think about that?
I don't know about the legal foundation of it. I always remind everybody I'm not a lawyer. But
and you don't want to be.
No, definitely not. But that seems like a potential option. But remember, that's a pretty big deal as far as manpower and assets. And even though Tehran, their ports are a little more limited as far as, we know where these ships are. We could actually blockade their ports. Might be even probably a faster way to do it, but that puts people at risk.
Yeah,
that's essentially boots on the ground, even though they're floating on our ships, but they're really close to their coastline. They do have a lot of anti-ship capabilities. I'm not sure if I would go into that right now. I think that would certainly be on the table. I'd love to see us close down those ghost fleets altogether, but that's a bigger lift. So I would say that's probably on the list, but further down the list than right now.
Oh, so you think that like striking those IRGC facilities is a more likely initial response? Is that what you're saying?
I do, yeah.
Huh. And what's the exposure there in terms of what you heard him respond to? The rhetoric coming from the mullahs, which is if you hit us, then we're going to target your military bases or commercial centers.
Their bluster has a lot less oomph behind it than it used to. Their proxy forces are pretty well beat up. Their own forces are not as effective as everybody thought they were going to be. Some of that is just chest pounding on their part. So that you have to be concerned about it. You have to, we have to up our security for our installations and interests in the region. But that's not that threat does not shut down anything. This is not the Biden administration or the Obama administration anymore. And I think President Trump would say, well, you can do that, as he said, but then you'll really get pounded. And I'm pretty sure the mullahs are not really interested in that. That's a no-win for them. So, okay, make that kind of claim. It's good for your supporters at home. It's not really impressing too many people.
Do you have any assessment of how likely it is that the Ayatollah could actually be toppled?
More so than in my entire lifetime of watching this stuff. When the Ayatollah announces he's got, arrangements made to go run to Russia if he needs to, they've never said that before in the midst of demonstrations. They always were, set and we're going to just crush these people and be done with it. This is the biggest magnitude of demonstrations we've ever seen. And at a time when the regime there is weaker than it's ever been before. This might be the time to rid the Iranian people of this terrible autocracy and rid the region of the most problematic actors that we've had.
And is it your belief that in terms of any sort of response, even if the response was in the death throes of the regime, which of course is always a dangerous time, that it's more likely that Iran would only be able to strike against allies or outposts in their region, in the Middle East and in their hemisphere, as opposed to on American soil, sans perhaps quote unquote lone wolf terror attacks.
The lone wolf terror attacks are always a threat, even if it's somebody that's radicalized here and doing it in support of Iran, not necessarily at the direct order of Iran. Most of their IRGC guys that are here, we have a pretty good handle on. We know where they are. We're following them. The FBI in that regard has continued to do a pretty darn good job of keeping those guys' wings pretty well clipped. So it's always a danger. One can always slip through the crack, but I'm not. This is not something that would paralyze our policy-making options. It's not that big a threat.
And Russia, playing chess here, Russia's trying to be in the mind of Putin here as he's watching this play out after seeing what happened in Venezuela and ships being taken by the United States that are carrying illicit cargo, these shadow fleets. Again, is your sense that this moves him closer to making a deal on Ukraine, or is it your sense it potentially moves him closer to doing something drastic, like revisiting the prospect of using nuclear weapons against Ukraine to finish the deal?
I think it actually would move him closer to a deal as more and more of his supporting legs get removed or damaged. That puts him in a worse position. I really don't think Putin is a suicidal kind of guy. When you saw how crazy he went during COVID trying to protect himself, he obviously does not have a death wish. He's not an Islamic, radical who thinks dying is the way to get everything he wants. But he is kind of a bad actor and a bad guy, so you got to keep watching that stuff. But I think this would be more of a positive pressure on him, and one that he wouldn't like and would really tick him off, and he'd really, pound the table. But I don't think it's something that's going to cause him to start using tactical nukes in Ukraine. That's not a useful option for him. He wants Ukraine. He does not want a bunch of irradiated areas in the breadbasket of the world, because then he can't leverage that breadbasket either. So I don't think that's as big a possibility as some people worry about. I hope I'm not, looking at rose-colored glasses, but I don't think I am.
Trump has continued to opine on his desire for Greenland. Before hearing from Trump, first, General Alexis Grinkowicz is the commander, U.S. European Command, and NATO Supreme Allied Commander for Europe. This is what he had to say recently about the threat that Russia and China pose in the Arctic.
Well, it will grow into more and more of a threat. So as I mentioned, as the ice recedes and there's more and more access up there, we certainly see Russia and China working together. We have had Chinese vessels patrolling with Russia, not only on the north coast of Russia, but also north of Alaska and near Canada. And like I mentioned in my remarks, it's not for peaceful purposes. They're not studying the seals and the polar bears. They're out there doing bathymetric surveys and trying to figure out how they can counter NATO capabilities on and under the sea. So that's something that could grow very quickly, and we need to be mindful of it and ready for it.
And given that, Trump offered this.
Right now, we are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not, because if we don't do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland, and we're not going to have Russia or China as a neighbor. Okay?
That sent the press corps buzzing. Stephen?
I think this, as I think I've said before, this is a really strong negotiating technique for President Trump. He wants us to beef up our defenses, our meaning NATO defenses in the north, because this is a threat, as the general alluded to. But I'm not sure the benefit of him threatening to invade a NATO ally to get control of the territory. I think we probably just need to convince our ally to allow us to utilize that as NATO to protect the area and to ensure the security of it. But, President Trump is the master negotiator, so who am I to criticize him? But it does seem a little heavy-handed. And it gives the press lots of, ability to start foaming at the mouth about it. So I wish he would back off a little bit on the threat part, but the idea that Greenland needs to be secured, Greenland cannot be allowed to be influenced by Russia and China, that's true. As the general said, we've got to protect it. How we get there, I'm not sure which path we're going to take, but we'll see.
Well, he did say, I would like to make a deal the easy way. So Denmark has that going for him. Okay. Stephen Bucci served America for 3 decades as Army Special Forces officer and top Pentagon official. Now visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen, thank you as always.
It's my pleasure. We look forward to talking to you next week.
Yes, we will. And Stephen joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
If you apologize to the chair you just bumped into, you might need a better night's sleep.
People are loving Penny Mustard's double-sided memory foam mattresses.
If you make small talk with your chiropractor and ask what they do for a living, you might need a better night's sleep.
Made in Wisconsin and built to last 45% longer than the average memory foam mattress.
And backed by a 1-year comfort guarantee.
If the cashier says, have a great day, and you respond, no thank you, you might need a better night's sleep.
And a better night's sleep starts at Penny Mustard Furnishings.
PennyMustard.com.
82 million Americans rely on AM radio for news, sports, talk, and emergency alerts. But unless Congress acts now, AM could disappear from new cars. Tell lawmakers AM radio matters to you. Text AM to 39179 and urge Congress to pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act before it's too late.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Let me tell you about a proud new sponsor of Chicago's Morning Answer, Access One IT Services and Support. Chicago business owners, listen up. Your phone, internet, and IT should work well 24/7. But when it doesn't, who are you calling? An overseas help desk? Don't do that. If you want clear, reliable local experts, consider Chicago's best, Access One. Access One has been powering Chicago businesses with secure, reliable IT solutions for more than 30 years. From their headquarters right here in the West Loop, Whether it's voice over IP phones, dedicated internet, managed cybersecurity, cloud backups, or 24/7 support, Access One has you covered. Access One is Chicago-owned and Chicago-run, serving thousands of companies from Naperville to the North Shore and everywhere in between. Access One is rated top 5% in customer satisfaction and trusted by law firms, clinics, startups, tech startups, manufacturers, and businesses in many other sectors. So if you're in business, make sure your IT works well every single day. Start a conversation about your business needs today by calling Access One at 1-800-654-1555. That's 1-800-654-1555. Or you can visit them online at accessoneinc.com. That's Access One, the number spelled out, AccessONE, Inc.com. And tell them AM560 sent you when you do.
Sniffles and sneezes got you down? GoodRx is here to help with big savings on commonly prescribed cold and flu meds. GoodRx is free and easy to use. GoodRx is accepted at all major pharmacies like CVS, Walmart, and Walgreens. Just search your prescription, find a coupon, then show your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx is not insurance, but it works whether you have insurance or not. If you do, GoodRx may beat your copay price. Download the free app or visit GoodRx.com to save today.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. Super hard, obviously, for the whole family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, E-T-H-O-S, ethos.com/Mike.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
ZipRecruiter. Did you know most remodeling mishaps start before construction even begins? Here's something else you should know. At Forever Remodeling, we do things differently. Every kitchen, bathroom, and basement project starts with smart planning, detailed 3D designs, a clear scope of work, and accurate pricing, all sorted out before you get started. No surprises, no stress, just beautiful results, done right the first time. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, EVER, remodeling.com, and schedule your free in-home consultation today.
AM 560, The Answer.
Alert texter from 847 sent me a pretty good meme I hadn't seen. The Danish peninsula and archipelago surrounded by Legos with the caption, "Denmark is ready." Very, very heady memester there because, of course, Lego was created by a Danish gentleman named Kurt Christensen. Pretty funny. All right, coming up at 7:37, we'll return to our discussion about investigating and prosecuting federal law enforcement officers, particularly those working for ICE. We'll be joined by former FBI agent James Gagliano for that discussion. A little bit later on, yes, in case you were wondering, Dave Swirsky already has a parody song about the Bears' improbable, epic comeback victory against the Packers on Saturday night. You'll hear that a little bit later on. First, James Gagliano at 7:37. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 30 degrees here in Chicago at AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom.
2 Chicago police officers have been placed on administrative leave following a traffic stop early this morning. According to reports, the officers conducting the stop noticed a gun in the driver's lap. One of the officers fired his weapon following an encounter with the driver. While the driver was not shot, he was treated at the scene for minor cuts from broken glass and taken into custody. The 2 officers were transported to the hospital for observation. A man is in critical condition after being shot early yesterday morning. According to reports, a 26-year-old man was shot in the Rogers Park neighborhood. The shooter fled the scene, and there are no suspects in custody at this time. A man is dead after being stabbed in the chest and abdomen while riding the CTA Blue Line Saturday morning, and a second man is in serious condition after he was stabbed in the chest while riding the Red Line early yesterday morning. There are no suspects in either cases in custody at this time. This report is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Think full mouth dental implants are too expensive? Think again, not at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. With medical insurance, you could save thousands and receive your finally affordable dream smile. Check if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Alex Marlow explains his mission.
We're not going to play games here. We're not just going to court clicks. We're not just going to court shares. I'm going to give you the news. The news is what you're going to get in the show, and a deep analysis from great guests. What I'm trying to do here is try to save the country as best I can for my 4 children. I'm doing this for them. I'm doing this because I believe in America.
The Alex Marlow Show, weekdays at 11, right before Scott Jennings at noon on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey, it's Scott Tucker, and I'm here with
Amy Jacobson
from Retirement Dakota with Scott Tucker and Amy Jacobson here on AM 560, The Answer. Now, I'm a financial advisor, and Amy's the co-host for our program. You know, Amy, recently President Trump signed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. A lot of folks aren't realizing, Amy, that if they have highly appreciated assets, they can potentially tax defer the capital gains tax, place that money into a qualified opportunity fund, and then 10 years from now, get back out of that investment and pay no capital gains tax on either investment. Have you heard of such a thing, Amy?
I did not know about that. That seemed to be hidden in the bill.
It's only 900 some pages.
Yeah,
we have to pass it to see what's in it.
An easy beach read, yes.
Yes. And now there's another thing in the bill as well, Amy. Section 1202. Amy, did you read Section 1202?
I did not, but thank you for the homework assignment.
If you're a small business owner, many small business owners can now sell their small business and potentially pay no federal capital gains taxes on that capital gain of selling their business.
Wow.
If you'd like to get a free copy of my latest book, Escape Illinois, Should I Stay or Should I Go? Text the keyword book, that's BOOK, to 224-496-3999. Text the keyword book to 224-496-3999. In addition to the free copy of my latest book, Escape Illinois, Should I Stay or Should I Go? You'll also get our entire Retirement Dakota toolkit. We'll also give you the opportunity to talk to us 15 minutes for free over the telephone at another time so we can go through the One Big Beautiful Bill Act with you, show you how to potentially sell your highly appreciated assets and pay no federal capital gains tax, how qualified opportunity funds work, and also if you're a small business owner, how to potentially pay no capital gains on the sale of your small business through Section 1202 of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Text book to 224-496-3999 or call that very same number, 224-496-3999.
Investment advisory services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Firm does not offer tax advice.
I can't believe how much better Dad's doing since we brought on Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest.
I know. He's more engaged, more himself. It makes such a difference having him right here at home. Around the photos, his old record player, his favorite recliner, all the little things he knows. That familiarity really matters with dementia.
And their caregivers, they're just incredible. They treat him with so much patience and respect.
Plus, they helped us tap into a Medicare program that offers 80 hours of respite care for Alzheimer's and dementia.
We're not worried anymore, and Dad gets to stay where he's happiest, at home.
Trust the caregivers at Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest, serving Cook, DuPage, Kane, Kendall, and Will counties. You can call them 24/7 at 331-281-0728. Again, that's 331-281-0728. And tell them AM 560 sent you. Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest. Senior care, only better.
Hair Volume from New Nordic will make your hair look thick and healthy. Hair Volume is available online at Amazon and NewNordicUSA.com or in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Adler. Jam-packed now on the Stevenson inbound between Harlem Road and Pulaski Road with a collision blocking the center lane, so it's 41 minutes from the Tri-State to Lakeshore. Outbound is 16. The 57 inbound between 127th Street and 119th Street, that is stop and go because of a crash. And then also real slow on the Reagan Memorial, eastbound into the Tri-State. Now the Eisenhower inbound from the Jane Addams to the Old Post Office is 47 minutes. Outbound is 50. The Kennedy inbound from O'Hare to the Byrne Interchange, 25 minutes. Outbound is 29. Hitting the brakes on the Kennedy Express inbound from Damon Avenue to Ohio Street. This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Kyle Cox started Blindster in his garage back in 2010. Since then, they've sold millions of custom blinds, shades, and shutters nationwide. Their blinds are DIY friendly, guaranteed to fit, and always cheaper than the big box stores. Blindster.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today, expect mostly sunny skies with a brisk breeze. The temperature will reach a high of 42. Tonight, clouds will start to increase, leading to a low of 33. Tomorrow will bring mostly cloudy conditions with a passing shower around midday and breezy conditions in the afternoon. Look for a high of 48. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. The accusations are coming fast and furious as the left seeks to capitalize on the death of that, I don't know how else to describe her, but radicalized suburban housewife. I don't know what she was doing out there. I don't know what she was thinking, as many have said, but we discussed yesterday. What are you doing out there when you have a 6-year-old son at home, and then you're going to interrupt a ICE operation, an ICE convoy down a suburban street, and then you're going to be faced with an officer. You're going to disregard lawful commands. Then you're going to be faced with an officer who has his gun trained on you, and you're going to press down the gas pedal to go at him. Whatever your motive, whether it was malicious or you panicked, error in judgment in the moment to attempt to flee the scene and ignore the lawful orders, and you move a 4,000-pound vehicle in the direction of a law enforcement officer. As I tweeted over the weekend, sentimentality, living life completely by sentiment, absent reason, can get you killed, and it can kill your civilization along with you. And that seems to be the order of the day in these sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. But Minnesota Senator Tina Smith, she gets it. Number one, she, as we talked about a bit earlier in the show, she is accusing the Trump administration of a cover-up. You're covering something up when there's been a half a dozen videos, including ones released by Homeland Security, that detail the 3 minutes before the ICE-involved shooting of the woman. And there's a national debate going on about whether or not it was a legitimate self-defense shooting. I don't know what exactly is being covered up, but okay. But Tina Smith also understands how law enforcement is trained, you see, which is why she knows this was not a legitimate self-defense shooting.
And I understand how law enforcement, professional law enforcement, is trained. They are trained to de-escalate situations, not make them worse, not make conflict worse. They are certainly trained to step out of the way of a moving vehicle, not place themselves in the middle of a moving vehicle. And no professional law enforcement would like exchange words or banter with somebody who is engaged in their legal right to protest and then lose control, which is, which looks to me like what happened here.
She also knows about how volunteers ostensibly like Miss Good are trained because she's gone to the sessions. Volunteers are very professional, professional volunteers. They get trained too so that they can protest / interrupt, not impede though, ICE operations.
Well, I know what's happening in this community is that folks that are not the targets of this ICE operation are going to trainings, volunteer trainings, and the purpose is to be learn what they are allowed to do, what they are legally allowed to do in order to observe what's happening on the street and to be able to catch video, which is, of course, all completely legal, and then be able to sort of help Americans document what is happening with this incredible deportation campaign. And
citizen journalists / protesters pay no attention to the flow of NGO money. Yeah, that's what happens. Of course, she also mentioned that the protests were mostly peaceful if you, ignore the unlawful attempts to impede ICE officers, if you ignore the assaulting of ICE officers, if you ignore people jumping on the cars of ICE officers and trying to lock them in place, if you ignore the vandalizing of hotels in downtown, what was formerly known as Minneapolis, the defacing of them, F-ICE spray painted on the windows, and all sorts of other vandalism, violent conduct. I mean, if you ignore all that, yeah, sure, it must be peaceful. For more on this, please be joined by James Gagliano, retired FBI supervisory special agent and doctoral candidate at Homeland Security at St. John's. He also served as mayor of Village of Cornwall-on-Hudson in New York. Jim, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Dan, how are you?
Good. So is the good senator from Minnesota, is she right about how law enforcement is trained? Real professional law enforcement would never have done what Agent Ross did, would have been able to get out of the way of a moving car, would have de-escalated the situation. So it's clear that that was not a good shoot, and he should be turned over to Hennepin County State's Attorney Mary Moriarty for prosecution.
Well, we in law enforcement, and I've been retired now for a few years, but I spent, as you pointed out, a quarter century doing it. We have to have a thick skin. We understand that the job of enforcing laws comes with pushback and comes with people being upset. And normally when we have interactions with folks, it's at the worst possible time in their lives. And, it's awfully wonderful to sit back and say de-escalation is something that should be done. And we always encourage that and we work to do that. But police officers and law enforcement in general are forced to make split-second decisions. And to suggest that, she was in this officer's shoes and he could have jumped out of the way and he shouldn't have used lethal force because he had time to think about this, process it, and make a decision is ludicrous. Dan, there's a Supreme Court case from 1989 called Graham v. Connor. You and I have discussed it before. And what it does is it puts this veil over every incident that a law enforcement officer is in called objective reasonableness. Was this officer's actions objectively reasonable? And I would argue in this instance that it's certainly defensible. I mean, all the legal experts I've listened to and read, I've looked at this and say, yes, this is an entirely defensible case. The question is going to become, was it advisable? And I always dumb that down, if you will, to, yes, this shooting was lawful. You may consider it awful, but it was lawful. And I think that's where you got to start. We can argue about it, but the bottom line is these folks are there doing the job that the American people have asked them to do. You're unhappy with ICE? Change the law. Go petition your Congress folks. Don't allow political vigilantism to put people into this situation. It's a tragic loss of life, but it was caused by this woman and that ideology and nothing else.
Well, the other point, too, in terms of the argument about de-escalation, well, they tried to de-escalate it. She was impeding their progress, and they said, get out of the car. And if she would have gotten out of the car, then we wouldn't be talking about her past tense.
Well, you highlighted that I am nearing the end of my dissertation phase for my doctorate, and my doctorate is in use of force, looking at the NYPD across 23 years. Dan, I'll give you a quick sneak preview. Do you know what 100% of the cases that I have looked at across these years involving NYPD officers and their use of force where deadly force was utilized and someone lost their lives? You know what the number one variable and factor in that was?
Resisting arrest.
Compliance.
Yeah.
There you go. Compliance. People that don't comply, those are the situations where this happened. None of the shootings that I've looked at from the NYPD from 2000 all the way to 2023 involve somebody complying with lawful commands and then being shot to death. And this is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that that lethal force is always justified if someone doesn't comply. I mean, we have that case out of I'm going by memory here, but it was South Carolina, where the guy got out of his car and ran, and the officer shot him in the back. And he was convicted of murder. That was second degree, I think, but that was not a lawful shoot because he had no reasonable fear for serious bodily harm or injury. So you make determinations based on the specifics here, but the bottom line, basic public service announcement is when an officer makes a lawful command, comply with it. And if you think it was unlawful or you think you're being mistreated, this is why we have courts of law. I mean, how fracking complicated is that? Not very.
Well, you just nailed it with the example you used. That, I believe, was it North Charleston? And it was
South
a number
Carolina,
of years
yeah.
ago. Yes. And the individual was being pulled over for a traffic violation, and I think he had absconded on child support payments. And the officer didn't just shoot him; he shot him in the back, fleeing.
Right.
Nobody. I wrote an article about that, Dan, for Newsweek years and years ago. Nobody would argue that officer was in the right. As you pointed out, there are levels for de-escalation. First, you start with a stern warning and talking to. Second, you raise it to the level of putting your hands on somebody. To the third, you could use tools like a collapsible baton or pepper spray. The fourth is, a taser. And then last, and trust me when I say this, I don't know this ICE officer. However, I do know, having spent so much time in law enforcement, working across state, federal, and local departments, nobody goes to work thinking, I'm going to shoot and kill somebody today. This ICE officer's life has been irrevocably changed. Whether or not he is, taken to trial and has to fight this at trial, or whether or not no charges are brought, he will wake up every day thinking to himself, I could have done this, I should have done this. He made a decision in a vacuum, a tiny snapshot, a millisecond, when she decided, with the encouragement of her wife, who were there to provoke, bait, obstruct, and impede, she made a decision to do that. It's an awful decision, but like I said, lawful but awful.
One other thing, too, since the good senator from Minnesota, Tina Smith, gave us a characterization of the training for volunteers who are going to peacefully protest. Yeah, I'd love to go to the training sessions that she's going to, because I see everything from a comical conga line protesting ICE in Portland, which is perfectly lawful and rather hilarious, to the description that I provided of people ransacking hotels in Minneapolis and assaulting officers and jumping on the hoods of ICE vehicles. So I don't know exactly the training sessions that Tina Smith's going to, but clearly there's a significant percentage of these volunteers, in scare quotes, that are not receiving the proper training, or at least not abiding it if they did.
Absolutely. And I'm also allowed as a recovering politician to say this. The reckless and irresponsible language that has come from people like Governor Tim Walz and Mayor Jacob Frey and Congresswoman Ilhan Omar are repugnant and reprehensible and are going to lead to more violence. This is what happens. Now, think about what Mayor Frey did a year ago. He said no ICE operations can use public property, Minnesota's public property in Minneapolis, for staging purposes, including public parks or any type of public property. Then he said Minneapolis police will not aid or assist in any way ICE operations. Now, they're a sanctuary city. I live in New York. We have one of 8.4 million people, the 5 boroughs down in New York City. When you do this and you separate federal law enforcement from your local enforcement, and then you pretend to hide behind, yes, but this causes communities of folks that are here illegally not to cooperate with law enforcement. We're making it safer. You are not. And lastly, I put it like this. Imagine if red cities or red states came forward and said, we are not going to assist the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms in enforcing firearms laws. So you can do whatever you want. You can own guns. You can carry them. You can do whatever you want. You don't need a license. You don't need a pistol permit. You can do it. That's anarchy. And that's essentially what's happening on the other side, and they justify it, and they're wrong.
James Gagliano, retired FBI supervisory special agent and a doctoral candidate in Homeland Security at St. John's. We got a sneak peek of his dissertation. That was fun. He also served as mayor of Village of Cornwall-on-Hudson, New York. Jim, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Dan, thanks for having me, and go Bears. I'm rooting for you guys.
Oh, very nice. We appreciate that. Yeah, very, very good. Sorry about your Jets and Giants. You don't have much to root for, unless Saquon Barkley returns to New York at some point. Thanks, Jim.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
I'm Rob Cole, owner of Cole Digital in Frankfort, specialists in smart home design and installation. We sell more lighting control than anyone in Chicagoland, replacing your light switches with our smart dimmers, each with 1 to 5 buttons with backlit text. With an astronomical clock, your coach lamps, landscape, and Christmas lights will be an autopilot for life. You'll never come home to a dark house again. Touch a button marked Arrive, Entertain, or Movie Night, and all of your lighting will set the right mood. Press Bedtime to illuminate a path to bed, turning off all your lights in sequence. Add our SunSmart line of automated shades with designer fabrics and control it all with your phone. Tour our Smart Living Design Center, the largest in America, with 2 fully automated homes, lighting showroom, and a shade and blind studio, and see what smart living is all about. Visit us at coledigital.com. That's KOLE digital.com. Or call us at 815-469-2000, and we'll bring the showroom to you. Cole Digital, we're changing the way homes think.
I understand that Jim Gagliano is actually a Falcons fan. I guess he's from Atlanta originally, so sorry about that, Jim, but not much different. The Falcons could use Saquon Barkley, too. If you're having trouble keeping up with your bills, it's time to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender, about a fresh start debt consolidation mortgage. Sam, 56, press operator, earning $90,000 a year, living in a $300,000 single-family home with a $150,000 mortgage. Despite having equity in his home, Sam missed his January mortgage payment, which dropped his credit score more than 60 points and prevented him from refinancing until February of next year. If Sam had called Team Hochberg in December, they could have helped him pay off his debt, avoid missing his mortgage payment, and enhance his credit score. If you're struggling with bills and have equity in your home, call Team Hochberg now, not tomorrow, not next week or next month, at 855-563-2843. Team Hochberg helps out thousands of AM 560 listeners, but they can't help you if you don't call 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. The number again, 855-563-2843, or visit the website you know and love, 56david.com. Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 1124061.
If you're over 40 and plan to retire someday, the window to protect what you've built may be smaller than you realize. As retirement moves from someday to on the horizon, protecting what you've built becomes just as important as growing it. And that's where Noble Gold Investments comes in. They help investors reduce risk by adding gold and silver to their portfolios. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com, noblegoldinvestments.com. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult with your tax or financial professional before making investment decisions.
Salem News Channel, your go-to source for news and conservative opinion. We reveal how politics hits home, how your family, your freedoms, your way of life are debated, challenged, even regulated. Every day we cut through the noise, pitting nonsense against common sense. On every screen, in every home, Salem News Channel is across America.
The new year means new resolutions, not just for your body, but for your finances as well. Did you know that financial health is directly related to your identity protection? This is why you need LifeLock. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, LifeLock's restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed, or your subscription money back. Resolve to make your identity, health, and wealth part of your New Year's goals with LifeLock. Visit LifeLock.com and save up to 40% off your first year with a promo code BECK. Terms apply.
Oh, hello. It's me, the calculator that lives inside of TaxSlayer. And let me tell you, I love numbers. 1040s, 1099s, W-2s, all of them. With TaxSlayer, anyone can file a federal return for just $22.99. You'll get 100% accuracy and your biggest possible refund guaranteed. Now those are great numbers. Need help along the way? We've got US-based real human support. File by February 8th for just $22.99 and get the refund you deserve. TaxSlayer. File fearlessly.
Sign up to become an AM560 Advantage member at 560theanswer.com.
News, opinion, insight. This is AM560, The Answer. WIND, Chicago. Streaming at 560theanswer.com on the AM560 mobile app or tell your smart speaker to play The Answer Chicago.
Death to America chants in Iran. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. And big counter-demonstrations supporting Iran's regime after days of protests against Iran's leaders that led to a deadly crackdown. President Trump has said he could take action to stop. Fox's Aisha Hasni's at the White House.
The president told reporters last night that Iranian leaders have reached out to the White House to set up a meeting to negotiate, but the U.S. might have to act before they ever meet because Iran is starting to cross his red line.
There seem to be some people killed that aren't supposed to be killed. These are violent. If you call them leaders, I don't know if they're leaders or just they rule through violence.
Human rights groups report more than 500 protesters have been killed in the crackdown. That's also included Iran shutting down the internet and cutting off phone service. Someone drove a U-Haul into a group of anti-Iran demonstrators in Los Angeles.
One person was hit, but no one was seriously hurt. Protesters scrambled to get out of the way, then ran after the vehicle and tried to attack the driver. The truck, whose windows and side mirrors were shattered, was stopped several blocks away and surrounded by police cars.
Fox's Tanya J. Powers, that driver was taken into custody. Now to the anti-ICE protests. That's in Minneapolis. They've also expanded to other cities days after what demonstrators call murder. When an immigration agent shot and killed a woman, Homeland Security maintains drove toward him. Secretary Kristi Noem tells Fox Sunday Morning Futures.
If they conduct violent activities against law enforcement, if they impede our operations, that's a crime.
And Noem says they're sending hundreds more agents to Minneapolis. The Federal Reserve Chairman, President Trump's called a moron for not cutting interest rates soon enough and not big enough, is now under criminal investigation over Jerome Powell's testimony to Congress about Fed building renovations. Powell, in a video statement, says he has stood firm in the face of threats, and this is about if the Fed can be independent.
Or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation.
America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 30 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560, The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. Former ComEd CEO Ann Pramaggiore is set to report to federal prison today. She's one of the so-called ComEd 4 who were convicted on charges of bribery and falsifying documents back in 2024. Sentencing had been delayed as the 4 had attempted to have those charges dropped. Former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich is urging President Trump to grant Pramaggiore clemency, saying that she was politically targeted. A Chicago man is in custody for the shooting death of a dentist and his wife in Ohio. According to reports, Michael McKee has been charged in the shooting death of his ex-wife Monique Tepe and her husband Spencer Tepe. The pair were found shot to death in their home on December 30th. McKee is scheduled to appear in an Ohio courtroom later today. 2 Chicago police officers have been placed on administrative leave following a traffic stop early this morning. According to reports, those officers were conducting the stop and noticed a gun in the driver's lap. One of the officers fired his weapon following an encounter with the driver. While the driver was not hit, he was treated at the scene for minor cuts from broken glass and taken into custody. The 2 officers were transported to the hospital for observation. And the Chicago Bears will be hosting the Los Angeles Rams in the NFL Divisional Round playoff game on Sunday. The Cardiac Bears living up to their nickname after a crazy come-from-behind win against the Packers on Saturday night. Bears fans still celebrating that come-from-behind victory. After trailing the first 3 quarters, Bears found their stride, knocking off the cobwebs, scoring 25 points in the 4th quarter, securing their place in next week's division playoff round. Time for Sunday's game has yet to be announced. This report is a service of the daily podcast of Chicago's Morning Answer and The Sean Thompson Show. Hear both shows with limited commercials when you subscribe for free to the daily podcast at 560theanswer.com/podcast. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes, but time now for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank.
I'm Charles Payne, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Fed Chair Jerome Powell is accusing the Trump administration of investigating him to pressure the Fed to lower interest rates. Powell says the Justice Department is conducting a criminal probe into his testimony to Congress over renovations to Fed buildings. President Trump says he does not know about Justice Department subpoenas, and any criminal investigation would not be related to disagreements on interest rates. More people picked up a new phone last year. Research firm Counterpoint tells Reuters global smartphone shipments rose 2% from the year before. Apple leads the market with a 20% share. More Walmart locations will be using drones for delivery. The Wall Street Journal says Walmart hopes to have the service at more than 270 locations nationwide by the end of 2027. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Cosola. Invested in you.
Scott Jennings isn't impressed with the United Nations.
As well as thanking China and Russia for their support for holding of this meeting.
Okay, so Somalia is running a meeting. Colombia is thanking Russia and China for their support. This is the United Nations Security Council. You couldn't make this up. You couldn't make one of those Mad Libs this crazy if you tried.
The Scott Jennings Show. Weekdays at noon, right before Hugh Hewitt at 2 on AM 560. The Answer.
If you or someone you love are getting high quotes for dental implants, visit almostfreeteeth.com today. With a medical PPO insurance plan, it's possible to save 90% off on average to be able to smile again. Check if you qualify now at almostfreeteeth.com.
Don't risk losing the news, sports, and weather that AM radio delivers. When SAL and internet service fail, AM is your lifeline. With time running out, your voice matters. Text AM to 39179 and tell Congress vote yes on the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act to keep AM radio in cars.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Hey, it's Scott Tucker and my new co-host,
Amy Jacobson,
on AM 560. We wanted you to know that we have a special show every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. here on AM 560, The Answer. It is Retirement Decoded with Scott Tucker and
Amy Jacobson.
It's every Sunday morning from 7 to 9 a.m. 2-hour show, 2-hour radio extravaganza. Amy, we're going to tantalize the listening public and the listening private with all kinds of retirement planning information. So tune in at AM 560 Sunday mornings at 7 a.m.
Relief Factor loves hearing from pain-free customers and hopes that you're going to be the next that writes in. Kim wrote in and said, before trying Relief Factor, Glenn, I struggled just to make it through my work days. I'd collapse on the couch at night, aching everywhere. Within a few weeks of starting Relief Factor, that daily pain began to fade. Now I'm keeping up at work. I still have energy left for my family. My life has changed. Kim's is the story of thousands of kitchens and office desks and factory floors. The story of parents having more love to give because they have strength to share it. Relief Factor doesn't just ease pain, it restores your evening, your laughter, and the simple joy of just being present. Relief Factor has given me a big part of my life back, whether in the cold and elevation of our ranch or walks along the beaches with my wife in Florida. Relief Factor is 100% drug-free and targets the inflammation that causes pain so you can move better and feel better and actually enjoy life again. Try their 3-week quick start, $19.95. Go to relieffactor.com, 1-800-4-RELIEF, 1-800-4-RELIEF, and see if you're not the next to get out of pain.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-330-8323 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-330-8323. That's 800-330-8323. What do you have to lose? Call 800-330-8323. Again, 800-330-8323.
At AlmostFreeTeeth.com, they're dedicated to making smiles great again. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save 90% off on average to get a beautiful dental implant supported smile. Check if you qualify right now at AlmostFreeTeeth.com.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Jam-packed on the Dan Ryan inbound into 87th Street, all because of a collision. So it's 24 minutes from 95th Street to the Byrne Interchange. Outbound is 13. It's also stop and go on the Bishop Ford inbound between Cottage Grove Avenue and the Dan Ryan. Lakeshore Drive is completely jammed as you approach Jackson Avenue, all because of an earlier accident. You've got 26 minutes inbound on the Stevenson from the Tri-State to Lakeshore. Outbound is 17. Stop and go on the Tri-State northbound between the Reagan Memorial and the Eisenhower, and 39 minutes inbound on the Eisenhower from the Jane Addams to the Old Post Office. Outbound is 35. This report is a service of Straight Talk Wireless. Don't let data limits hold you back from being the gift master in the family group chat. Switch to Straight Talk Wireless and get real unlimited data on Verizon 5G network. Straight Talk available at straighttalk.com or Walmart. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the QC Kinetics Weather Center.
Today, expect mostly sunny skies with a breeze reaching a high of 42. Tonight will bring increasing cloudiness with a low of 33. Tomorrow, anticipate mostly cloudy conditions with a brief shower around midday and breezy weather in the afternoon, reaching a high of 48. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and we have been trying to tackle all of the serious and less than serious contentions being offered about both the ICE-involved shooting in Minnesota last week, the tears from Roffles in what was formerly known as Minneapolis to the chief of police in Portland. There's a few more we have to address. You're just trying to get to all of the suppositions and arguments being made so they're properly addressed. There's a lot of spaghetti against a wall going on the left. I mean, you've heard from the usual suspects like AOC.
Some of the Republican colleagues are basically saying that ICE is doing its job and that people are there to disrupt them and to stop them. What would you want to tell them?
I would not say that assassinating a young mother of 3 in the street is part of ICE's mandate. ICE specifically has a mandate that has nothing to do with going after U.S. citizens. Watch the video for yourself. You don't have to worry about the politics with me or what I'm going to say or what anyone else is going to say. Watch that video for yourself, and you will see a woman trying to back up her vehicle and leave a volatile scene.
She wasn't allowed to leave. Just point of order. Assassinated? So, I mean, do consequences ever get attached to the language used by the left? No, they don't. She was assassinated. So Officer Ross got up that morning and said, I am going to track down Renee Good and I'm going to take her out. Is that what you're saying? An assassination necessarily implies a plot, doesn't it? As distinguished from, say, the Charlie Kirk assassination. Although I must say, rather shocking but the devolution continues. Tucker Carlson on this shooting, because we have to fold in some ostensibly on the right who are far afield on any number of matters, in my view. This is what he wrote. I'm quoting him. The Minnesota ICE shooting. The video is violent, bloody, and tough to watch. The victim shouldn't have blocked the road with their car. Hundreds of hysterical protesters launched into their typical routines, and liberal leaders like Jacob Fry immediately declared it's time for ICE to get the F out of Minneapolis, are predictably behaving like children. That's all true, but it should be secondary to the tragedy of Renee Nicole Good losing her life. The 37-year-old was an American citizen and reportedly the mother of kindergarten-age children. Did we disagree with her views on immigration? Probably, but that shouldn't matter. Her death is a tragedy, regardless of her partisan affiliations, ideological beliefs, or who pulled the trigger. A woman got shot in the face. How come so few conservatives are viewing this story through a human lens? And why, when something similar, like the killing of Charlie Kirk, happens on the other side, did many on the left celebrate because they thought his political positions were wrong? We have a guess. Violence around the world is desensitizing Americans to violence at home. Is the ICE-involved shooting of Renee Good similar to the assassination of Charlie Kirk? I don't think so. I don't think it's in the same ballpark. I think this is comparing apple orchards to orange groves. And then the additional beautiful mind, push pins, yarn, connecting of the dots. Think about what just happened in Venezuela. Donald Trump's backers are celebrating Maduro's abdication as a victory for justice, freedom, American prosperity, while his opponents fear it was a manufactured act of nation-building globalism detrimental to our nation's interests. This piece's purpose is not to weigh in on the debate, but it's worth acknowledging that neither side has seemed to bother to mention the attack's death toll. The title of the piece is The Minnesota Shooting, Venezuela, Gaza, It's All Connected. That, I guess, there is a desensitization to violence because why? I mean, honestly, you can recognize the death toll and characterize it as unfortunate, just as nobody wanted Renee Good. Nobody knew who she was. Nobody wanted her dead. Nobody got up that morning and wished her dead. Nobody wishes her. Nobody's celebrating her death. In fact, it's just the opposite. It's the, what were you doing? How could you put yourself in that position? Think about your son. And that is not to lack empathy, but it's to say that is crazed behavior. Crazed, dangerous behavior. You put yourself and other people in a situation nobody wanted to be in. I mean, to call it reckless is to wildly understate it. And to compare that to Charlie Kirk's assassination, to suggest because of the nature of the human condition that you have to respond to people who use violence to their political ends, whether it is Hamas and Hezbollah in the Middle East or domestic terrorists on American soil. That, yes, unfortunately, the nature of man being fallen, sometimes violence is required to protect the people who play by the rules against those who predate on those who play by the rules. Right? I mean, that is just a wild take by Tucker Carlson, in my view. He and Megyn Kelly continue to diminish themselves with each passing day, as far as I can tell. Wild. I mean, that is the sort of unbounded rhetoric you would expect from, I don't know, like Nicholas Kristof, New York Times columnist, longtime New York Times columnist. He posted on X this meme. As someone who covered Tiananmen in 1989, it pains me to feel the need to retweet this about the U.S. And it's a meme. Instead of tanks at Tiananmen Square and Tank Man, it's 3 ICE Suburbans and, some honky housewife in front of them. Right, because this is what happened in what was formerly Minneapolis is tantamount to Tiananmen Square. And this regime is tantamount to the Chinese communist dictators of yore. Unhinged. Unserious. Sorry to have to make those comparisons, but unlike Tucker's, they're apt. Whew. Shocking. Ralph in Rantoul.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Hey, Dan, you forgot to activate God mode because that's the mode that Tucker is operating in. He is saying, as God, Tucker God, all loss of human life is equal, no matter whether it's, innocent, accidental, at the hands of Hamas, at the hands of an assassin like Charlie Kirk was murdered, So we who just kind of differentiate between the different ways that people die and whether it's malice or accidental.
Right.
We just don't get it. We don't get it.
Right. Yeah. Whether it's, dying on the beach at Normandy or, dying because you tried to run over a police officer. It's all death, Ralph.
Well, God mode. You got to activate God mode, Dan. Tucker God mode. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah, thanks for the call. It's jarring. It has to be addressed, though. That's just crazy. Tony, Downers Grove.
Hey, Dan. Yeah, the false equivalency is amazing. They did it with Iraq and Venezuela. Let's make the comparison. Now Charlie Kirk to what happened to Renee Good. And it's interesting that the constant manufacturing of a problem and then screaming with your hair on fire when there's a result of the manufacturing of the problem and pointing the finger and gaslighting everyone is what's happening. What's been going on? They've been saying how Trump wants to enact martial law. This has been happening for several months. And you're hearing it now. Well, he's going to enact martial law. There aren't going to be elections.
Of course. It's you have to play whack-a-mole with them. They'll be back to that. Whatever they've said previously, it will come back around. There's no question about it. Thanks for the call, Tony. Yeah, of course. Right. He's going to, this is, Jelly Bellies. All of this is the predicate to have federal troops seize ballot boxes and rig the 2026 election. He spent most of Operation Midway Blitz saying that when he wasn't beating the flab on what passes for his chest, talking about you come for, my people, you come through me. His people, predators. Just like Tina Smith's people in Minnesota that need to be protected from law enforcement. All those illegal, violent, criminal, illegal aliens that Bill Maloogian reported on that I've mentioned now twice and just posted on X in case you haven't seen it. See it and share it. And just ask the question, so ICE should abdicate Minneapolis, what was formerly known as Minneapolis, just like Chicago and every other place, to let all of these people stay. And if not all of them, then which ones? And if not any of them, then who else is going to remove them? You? Jelly Belly? Pajama Boy? Jacob Fry? Field Marshal Tim? Who's going to do it? Speaking of Jelly Belly, he, of course, managed to shoehorn his way onto the Sunday talkies, too. He wants to get his bite at the apple. Remember, the contest for 2028 whoever can be the most recklessly outlandish critic of Trump, of federal law enforcement, that's who will be the nominee. That's certainly the thinking of people like Patrick Bateman in California and Jelly Belly in Illinois, isn't it? And by the way, all of this is just allowing them to also resuscitate a position they used to publicly say, and then they were quiet about it. Now they're getting closer to being able to publicly say it again. AOC and all of them. Defund ICE, abolish ICE. Trump's first term, it was all abolish ICE. And then they had a... Be quiet about that. Now it's back, just below the surface. But that's their posture. Jelly Belly accusing the ICE of murdering Silverio Villegas Gonzalez. That happened in the suburbs. A shooting where what happened? Right. A person in this country illegally stopped by ICE, and what did he do? Used his vehicle. He was in his vehicle to try to escape. He hurt an ICE officer in the process, whether he was seriously injured or just minors. The officer in what was formerly Minneapolis, he was minor injuries too, because he was able to, duck out of the way for the most part after he defended himself. The bottom line is resisting arrest, disobeying an unlawful order, putting a law enforcement officer in harm's way. And yet this is what Jelly Belly had to say on Tapper this weekend, yesterday.
And in the Chicago area, we had a murder that took place by an ICE agent who claimed that he was seriously injured by somebody, and that's why he shot and killed him, Silverio Gonzalez Villegas. That was in September, by the way.
I'm sorry, has there been an ICE officer convicted of murder, charged? Where's the evidence? Oh, we're still gathering it. Oh, well, there you go. Jelly Belly, Mr. Due Process is judge, jury, and executioner. Of course he is. Don't rush to judgment. Mark, Liberty Hill, Texas. Hey, Mark. Mark, Liberty Hill, Texas. Going once, going twice. Okay. Ken in Plainfield.
Yeah, if you want to try to link, predating things like Tucker did, why don't they link this back to when, the government quit enforcing illegal immigration, started allowing protesters to, take over highways and even when they get charged, the judges let them go. That's what leads up to all this. All these protesters know even if they get charged, they're going to get let go the next morning. So, they know there's no consequences. All that predating comes up to this.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for the call, Ken. No question. And all the celebrities of bygone era 5 years ago are back. BLM activists in what was formerly Minneapolis.
Shut these streets down. Yes. Again. Make the city safe. Again. And again. They was worried about losing money when George Floyd died. We as a people can cause them to lose more money now. If we don't stand together, we're going to fall. Together we stand, divided we fall. We as a community got to stop talking and do the work. We cannot wait till somebody die again to do the work. ICE is a demon. They are not human beings. They are killers. They're killing on target.
Got to do the work. So let's get to the looting. I mean, symbolic taking. Tamika Mallory, remember her? She had a unique take on the lawlessness of that heady Black Lives Matter era when those orgs, all those fraudsters were ascended before they had to take a backseat to new and improved fraudsters that took the gaming of the benefit systems at the state level, combined with federal backing, to new heights. Tamika Mallory's back. She's one of Zoran the Commie's community safety advisors. She was on his transition team. Good luck, New York.
I don't give a damn if they burn down Target. Because Target should be on the streets with us, calling for the justice that our people deserve. Don't talk to us about looting. Y'all are the looters. America has looted black people.
Yeah. They're back. And they've got some ruffles to front for them to look like it's organic and local and educated. All right, we'll try again. Mark, Liberty Hill, Texas.
Hey, good morning, Dan.
Morning.
Hey, one quick comment. You know, I listen to this, and you know, you can watch on your TV of some of these folks in the Middle East, you know, yelling Allah Akbar, death to America with mismatched sandals and a Kalashnikov rifle, you know, death to America. It's very easy to understand that, you know, they don't like us and they want to change the way we live or destroy us. And we're getting to the point where I honestly don't see the difference between them and the people that we have to cohabitate with here. The only difference is they speak the language and we're neighbors with them. But as far as a commonality on the way the country should be, there's like, would you agree? There's like, they want to destroy the country, in my eyes.
Thanks for the call, Mark. Minus the Kalashnikov rifle, you can get that same action in what was formerly Minneapolis, Dearborn, Michigan. Steve, Northwest Side.
Good morning, Dan. Hey, I wanted to thank you for that interview last week with Tom Caldwell. It was a very good interview. I'm very familiar with his case, and it was good to hear from him and his story. I ordered the book. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
The other thing is, over 30 years on the job as a copper in Chicago, I saw a lot of things. There were guys I could not work with for personal reasons, nothing criminal. I'd have to go in and tell the watch secretary, please don't ever put me with this guy again. He's a goof, blah, blah, blah. What I never saw, ever saw, was a copper get in the car and say, let's go shoot somebody today. Let's go kill somebody today. So what James Gagliano said about that, he's spot on 1,000% right. I think people out there have this image that coppers are trigger happy. You know, we don't determine who we shoot. The people that determine who we shoot are the people we shoot. The last thing you want to do as a copper is shoot somebody, if only for the paperwork involved. So, I mean, really, I mean, you could be the most amoral person in the world. The paperwork alone would kill you. Nobody wants to shoot anybody, especially today.
Thanks for the call, Steve. Tom in Woodstock.
Hey, Danny, good morning. It would be interesting to be able to put forward one question to the 535 members of the Congress, and that is to explain the difference between the illegal alien and the overburdened American taxpayer. Because I am seeing congressmen and senators out defending illegal aliens, demonizing federal agents who are enforcing federal immigration law. This, in the face of what is turning out to be tens of billions and soon to be hundreds of billions of dollars in welfare fraud being committed by these illegals. And it's being paid for by the overburdened American citizen taxpayer. They claim that these are our neighbors. They're not my neighbors. I don't want anything to do with them. I don't care where they come from. You're here illegally. I want them all deported. So I have yet to hear anyone in the Congress make any kind of a reasonable or salient argument for the illegal alien above and beyond the American citizen taxpayer.
Thanks for the call, Tom. Well, they don't make the arguments. They offer alternate reality. They're not talking to you or the person who plays by the rule, the reasonable person. They're talking to the cable news addled hysteric. Cable news, Northeastern boarding school addled hysteric. The person with no impulse control, but impeccable academic credentials. Who thinks that temper tantrums are the way that you engage civically. and the pathological liars who serve their interests, and vice versa, like Adam Schiff. Here's the best take I've heard so far. And the fact that Adam Schiff knows he can go on CBS News and say this just reinforces what we know about the D.C. press corps. What really happened with respect to that ICE-involved shooting in Minneapolis? Here it is.
This 37-year-old woman drops her kid off at school, not involved in protest activity or anything, seems to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Wrong place, wrong time. That's all it was. Not involved in protests. Right, that's the guy that largely brought you the Russian collusion black helicopter silliness that beset the nation for the better part of 2.5 years. And the punishment he got was to go from the House to the Senate. Dan Proft, Chicago's Morning Answer. Check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 31 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560, The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. A Chicago area vascular surgeon is in custody, charged in the shooting death of a dentist and his wife in Ohio. According to reports, Michael McKee has been charged in the death of his ex-wife Monique Tepe and her husband Spencer Tepe. The pair were found shot to death in their home on December 30th. McKee is scheduled to appear in an Ohio courtroom later today. A Mexican national has been charged with illegally possessing and firing a loaded handgun in Chicago near immigration enforcement actions last year. Federal prosecutors allege Hector Gomez brandished a firearm at a victim on November 8th. Prosecutors say Gomez had previously been convicted of a felony and was removed from the United States on at least 4 different occasions between 2008 and 2015. And the Chicago Bears will be hosting the Los Angeles Rams in the NFL Divisional Round playoff game Sunday. The Cardiac Bears living up to their nickname after a crazy come-from-behind win against the Packers Saturday night. A time is yet to be announced for Sunday's game. This report is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Think full mouth dental implants are too expensive? Think again. Not at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. With medical insurance, you could save thousands and receive your finally affordable dream smile. Check if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Hugh Hewitt explains our involvement in Venezuela.
They are not generating any revenue from their oil right now. They can't move it unless we allow it to move because we have sanctions, because we're enforcing those sanctions.
They are running Venezuela through the leverage they have over the only thing that Venezuela has that can make currency for the police state that is largely still in power there after Maduro was taken to the United States.
The Hugh Hewitt Show. Afternoons at 2, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
I'm Robert Anderson, president of McLaughlin Body Company in the Quad Cities, and a customer of Signature Bank. When our 100-year-old family-owned manufacturing company was looking for a new bank, we found an excellent partner with Signature Bank. Signature Bank understands the challenges with manufacturing in today's highly competitive environment. We recently participated in a new markets tax credit program and were fortunate to have the experts at Signature Bank help us navigate the complexities of this program. With Signature Bank's support, we were able to expand not only our facility, but ultimately our business. If you're looking for a trusted banking partner for your business, look to Chicago's own Signature Bank.
Signature Bank is looking for their next success story. To learn more about turning your business vision into reality, visit signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Mike Lindell has a passion to help people get the best sleep of their life. He started by creating the best pillow ever, and right now he is passing the best prices to you when you use promo code LIBERTY. They want to thank you for your continued support by passing on some Christmas specials to our listeners. Get wholesale pricing on the classic My Pillows for $17.98. Transform any mattress with a My Mattress topper and save up to $100. Get a set of Giza sheets for as low as $29.98 or the 6-pack towel set for only $39.98. To get the best specials ever, go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. These offers won't last long, so call 800-489-0201 or go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY. Rest easy remembering that MyPillow products come with a 10-year warranty. Call today, 800-489-0201, promo code LIBERTY.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Jam-packed on Route 53 northbound between Rand Road and Lake Cook Road, all because of a collision taking out the left lane. The Kennedy inbound from Montrose to the Burn interchange is 30 minutes. Outbound is 11. You've got 41 minutes inbound on the Eisenhower from Wolf to the Old Post Office. Outbound is 22. And stop-and-go delays northbound on Lakeshore Drive as you head into Hollywood Avenue. 33 minutes inbound on the Stevenson from the Tri-State to Lakeshore. Outbound is 17. The Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn interchange is 27 minutes. Outbound is 11. This report is sponsored by Triton College. Spring into success at Triton College. Choose from 120 degree and certificate programs with convenient classes close to home, affordable tuition, and credits transferable to four-year schools. Affordable quality close to home. That's Triton College. Visit triton.edu/spring. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect mostly sunny skies with a brisk breeze. The temperature will reach a high of 42. Tonight, clouds will start to increase, leading to a low of 33. Tomorrow will bring mostly cloudy conditions with a passing shower around midday and breezy conditions in the afternoon. Look for a high of 48. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and market is not reacting well to the report that the Department of Justice served the Fed subpoenas threatening it with a criminal indictment, Jay Powell in particular, over his testimony about the Fed's building renovations, testimony before Congress, before the Senate Banking Committee back in June, to be specific. And this was regarding the Fed's $2.5 billion renovation of two office buildings, a project that Trump criticized last summer, if you recall, as excessive. Powell saying this is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation. Well, yeah, okay. As if the Fed sets interest rates based on hard and fast economic principles, as opposed to operating like the Oracle of Delphi and getting together and like a group of little mystics and divining what interest rates should be such that they properly calibrate this $25 trillion economy we have. What a joke that is. And it's also worth asking, I'm sorry, why does this group of mystics need two buildings such that, and a $2.5 billion renovation of two buildings? And obviously has too many employees and the digs are way too nice when it seems to me like you could get the same performance of Jay Powell by using a magic 8-ball. But that's me. Let's hear from an expert. Jim Perry, Perry International Capital Partners, joins us now. James, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan. Thank you.
So, you know, well, before, I mean, I don't need additional comment here. Your reaction to the subpoenas and the DOJ investigation into Powell and the excesses, arguably, Trump argued, of their spend on their digs.
Right. It does make good headlines, doesn't it?
It certainly reminds Jay Powell that his days are numbered. He'll be removed this fall, one way or the other. I mean, this spring, one way or the other.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. The point is, is this the way to go about that, or I mean, look, if there's something that was criminal that occurred, fine. If it's just the normal criminal behavior that's technically legalized under federal law, they spend excessive spending, then perhaps this is not so judicious.
Right. The Fed, Dan, is a unique institution. I'm not even sure why we have it sometimes. I think that they are the probably bottom 10th of economic forecasters in the world, right? And to your point moments ago, with these new buildings and all that, they've got something like 2,200 economists. Most of them they call themselves econometric people from MIT and Harvard. And they know the price of everything but the value of nothing, right? These are the types of people that are running the government, right? And then when you get a little sort of fight between Trump and Powell, it makes headlines, and then what happens is that the whole thing gets barbelled into the people that hate big government and love big government and hate, Trump as a dictator and Trump as a mean guy or an elected official. And the problem with the Fed is any logical portfolio manager or strategist will come out and tell you quite clearly that the Fed is not independent, and it's very political. And it has been since the beginning of its inception in 1913. They do not do anything but adjust short-term interest rates that ultimately have no real effect on the broader economy. The bond market sets interest rates. So the Fed, do they have too much power? Yes. Do they have a big influence on the markets? Not really. Do they need a $4 billion budget to get new buildings? It's big government at its finest. That's all I can say.
Yeah, you lay those 20. What's the old joke? You lay those 2,200 economists at the Fed end to end, and you couldn't reach a conclusion. Right. And by the way, this is not sort of a defense of Trump's behavior as some oracle either. Like they should cut interest rates, they should raise interest rates. Interest rates should be this. I'm completely libertarian about this. I'm opposed to the central bank. I'm opposed to this mysticism that masquerades as expertise. Right. Whether it's practiced by Republicans or Democrats, whether it's practiced by Greenspan or Powell or Trump or whoever Trump, Kevin Hassett or whoever Trump wants at the Fed. It's just, it's one of those, like, this is an opportunity to do something completely different, but much like the effort with Doge, it probably ends up being something very close to what we've always had, or what we've had for 100 plus years,
right.
As you said.
Right. Well, to your point, let's be honest about, factual things and headlines. Let's face it, Trump is a politician, right? He's not pretending to be anything other than that. He's pushing boundaries on Greenland and Cuba and Venezuela and Iran. That's what you do, right? But to say that Powell is not political, that's even more absurd, So the whole thing to me is a giant red herring, which shouldn't even be on the front page. And it's got no effect on the economy and absolutely no effect on markets.
What's your reaction to Trump's declaration Friday that American credit card companies should be subject to a 10% cap on the interest rate they can charge customers? Obviously, the big banks didn't like that. And the other thing that it seems to me it speaks to is, there must be a whole swath of people that are increasing the debt they're holding and having and increasingly getting squeezed by that debt, and they need some relief, and relief isn't coming for example at the grocery store or in the housing market anytime soon. So this is a way to try to address it.
Yeah, and I think that's right, and this is one of many things that kind of comes across the headlines that does that. Here's how investment strategists are looking at January 2026 and what to do with your portfolio into the year. The bottom line is midterm elections are really, really important, and the administration is going to do everything in their power to maintain their majorities in the House and the Senate and across the states and things like governorships and whatnot. Now, to do that, they are going to have to run the economy hot, right? That means make sure everybody feels pretty good by the end of Q1 and the end of Q2 so that they feel inclined to keep the powers that be or in power, keep them there. Now, the problem with that is that, you've got a really strange sort of economy now where, the people that own stocks and bonds are spending very comfortably on lots of things, right? I've had discussions. I'm in Chicago this week and last week and the week before about with clients about what's going on in the economy. And everybody talks about the prices of airline tickets to places like Miami, right? They're $1,000, right? $1,000 to get a hotel room. It's $800. Rental cars, can't get them. Cruise ships, packed. Airports, packed. But that's just a portion of the economy that's got money in the stock market. The people that live in the middle class suburbs around the country have a really big problem, and that is that prices of the cost of living, the prices of goods and services that they need to buy to maintain their families are under significant pressure, and they have no disposable income. And the reason for that is that the prices of goods from pre-pandemic to now are up on average 35%. And that means your budget is squeezed by 35%. And if that's the way you feel, you're not terribly inclined to continue to vote for the Republican or the Democratic congressman from your district that's doing nothing about it. So when Trump says, let's cap interest rates that American Express and MasterCard can charge from 26% to 10%. First of all, he's got no authority to do that, right? That's a free market mechanism. Second of all, the banks are down a little bit this morning, and the MasterCard and Visas are down. But, I'm a market guy first, right? So you look at the stock price of American Express, it's within 5% of its all-time high. Very similar with MasterCard and Visa. These guys are making a fortune, right? Earnings season for Q4 starts this week. The financial firms, JP Morgan and the like, Goldman Sachs, are going to report earnings. Their earnings, Dan, are going to be up 10%, 20%, 30%. They're making a fortune. And, the big cap tech stocks making a fortune. Most of the big companies in the top 2/3 of the S&P, their earnings were up in Q3 by 10 and 15%. That's going to happen again. Why? They have the ability to raise prices, and consumers are getting hurt by it. So when you have inflation, interest rates are really low still. I was just looking this morning at the inflation-linked, the inflation-protected securities that the Treasury has. The yields on these things are under 2%, right? So the market doesn't think there's any inflation, but don't tell that to anybody that's a middle-class household, right? They have to go to the grocery store every day. So the point is, the Fed is going to keep spending money and fighting what they perceive as, wrongdoing by corporate America or banks or oil companies or whatever to make sure that the voting bloc keeps the House of Representatives to the Conservative Party. That's where we're going here. And they're going to do it. So inflation is going to be higher in the first half of the year than it should be.
All right. So Michael Burry is betting against. Michael Burry is betting against the Magnificent Seven this year, and he's basically betting against AI, and that there are some winners and losers are going to start separating, and the first one that comes in, below expectations is going to have a domino effect, and even things like Altman, looking for government-backed loans to ChatGPT is concerning. So Burry, who, the Big Short guy, for those who've forgotten Michael Burry, bet against mortgage-backed securities in 2008, made $1 billion, blah, blah, blah. And a buddy of mine, too, who's a very successful wealth manager from Canada, he's triple shorting the Dow as well, based on his belief that AI is going to not have a banner year. What is your reaction to some sophisticated investors, at least, just a couple of examples, betting against positive returns this year?
Right. Good question. To your point, there is a bearish argument to make about the Mag 7 and AI and corporate America by a lot of people. I mean, half the market thinks that the economy is going to go down 20% this year, right? I'm not in that camp. I understand the argument about AI. And here's one thing. Again, I'm a market guy first. So the Mag 7, right? This big 7 stocks. Everybody's been bearish on these things, and it's true that they made their peak in October, and the market's basically been going sideways for the whole fourth quarter and much of the third quarter. But the fact is that the Mag 7 stocks are $2 off their all-time high, right? And the earnings that are coming in from these big companies are extraordinary. Revenue growth at 10, 15, 20, 30%, profit margins at 30, 40, 50%, and earnings at, 8 and 10 and 15%. So there's still buyers of this stuff out there. Who's going to win the AI race? I don't know. I'm not that smart. Is it Google? Is it Meta? Is it Apple? Is it, somebody else that we don't know about yet? Who knows? The idea is that this whole AI spend out thing is going to get a lot bigger, and it's driving economic growth. It doesn't seem like it when you're at the end of the year and everybody says, well, semiconductors are too expensive and the data center thing is too big and there's an oversupply. Well, maybe, but AI is changing the economy, and I think for the better. I had a conversation with a guy over the weekend who is a theoretical astrophysicist who is now doing AI stuff, right? And these guys all think that, and they are scientists and they're professors, and they all think that it's going to destroy the labor market, and we're careening toward universal basic income. And they're allowed to do that because they look at numbers and they look at data and they think they see rates of change. But what they don't understand is that there's an economic component in there, which is called survival, that people who are living and putting food on their money will find a way to survive. So I'm not that bearish on the market.
Well, here's the other thing, though. I mean, with respect to AI, so much of this is being given away for free right now. Well, that's ultimately going to change, just as we saw, right? Just as we see in every new sector in the burgeoning competition. The first taste is for free, so to speak. And so when you do have to charge to make it make sense to your investors, and some are able to charge market rate and others are not, you're going to have competitors fall by the wayside, and that may come sooner rather than later. I guess that's the theory.
Mm-hmm. I think the AI trade is greatly misunderstood, and I think it's. I think Wall Street should probably do a better job about explaining it, but they don't need to because they're profiting so much from it. But the bottom line is, when a company like Oracle, buys a bunch of NVIDIA chips and then spends money on the data center, and it's a circular financing and all that sort of stuff. Yes, it does sound kind of scary. And yes, Michael Burry does have a point that some of this depreciation stuff is probably not there, and he's correct. But the bottom line is that Wall Street's involved in the middle of that project too, and they're issuing bonds and leverage loans to pension companies all over the world who are buying this stuff up. And when you have a leveraged loan or a collateralized bond obligation that Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs put together, these deals are being oversubscribed by 5 and 6 and 10 times demand, right? So, you can see the headlines and get all frightened about everything. But the bottom line is that this giant pie that's growing out there, and there's little slices of it that are controlled by the Mag 7 and everybody else, that pie is getting bigger. And I think that the economy is going to do well this year. Mm-hmm. I think the government is behind it. They are going to stimulate the economy on a fiscal basis. The Fed's balance sheet's growing again, for heaven's sake. So I can't imagine why. Monetary stimulus keeps coming. Domestic money supply is going up again. Global money supply is off the charts. Global growth is good. Stock markets all over the world are making new highs. It's not just here, right? There's so much money out there. It's hard for me looking at the data that says somehow we're going to have a recession anytime soon.
So you're sticking your portfolio. You're sticking with the majority of your portfolio in equities.
Absolutely. Okay. I'm fully invested. Well, I'm 87% invested in mostly technology and defense. And I really don't see much reason. I'll do a little bit of adjusting, and you'll hear about it in the next month or so. But, I think that investors, money is flowing into this country at a rate that is still increasing. It's still rising, right? So you can't really invest in China unless you trust the Communist Party. You can't really invest in Europe if you think that somehow they're going to end up giving up their socialist state. Latin America still is too complicated. The Middle East is. So money from all these global economies that are growing at 3% and 4%, it's coming here. So money's coming into this country, and where's it going to go? It's stable. It's safe here. The dollar is rising. Oil prices are going down. The U.S. economy's, I don't know if you saw the Atlanta Fed came out Friday, but Q4 GDP, according to the Atlanta Fed, is going to rise at 5.4%.
Mm-hmm.
That's the highest number in like 30 years, right? At the same time, productivity in the U.S. economy, I don't know if you saw this number, but this is extraordinary. Q4 productivity was up 4.9%. That's the highest number in a generation, or 40 years, or 50 years, or something like that.
All right.
So the economy is getting more productive and more. The output is growing.
All right. You've persuaded me to be optimistic. Okay, I'm in. Don't sell past the close. James Perry, founder, CIO, Perry International Capital Partners. Jim, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. Have a good week.
Yeah, you as well. And, well, that concludes our show for this morning. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Thank you for joining us. We thank our guests, Jim Perry, James Gagliano, Stephen Bucci, and all our callers as well. Great conversations this morning. Again, back tomorrow with more, including Dave Swirsky we didn't get to today. My apologies. It's now 9 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
Up to 1,000 more federal agents are going to Minnesota. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News, where days of anti-ICE protests have raged, and they've spread nationwide. That's in Los Angeles, angry over last week's shooting that left a woman dead when Homeland Security maintained she drove toward an immigration agent. Fox's Matt Finn reports from Minneapolis.
There's also video showing the final